Good evening. Calling the Select Board meeting of August 22nd, 2023 to order. We are here in the Select Board room. We're on Zoom and we're also on RCTV on channel 31, Verizon, channel 9. Nope. Channel 33, Verizon, channel 22, Comcast, and we're also on YouTube. Just to run through the agenda, we'll have public comment at 7:05, so if you would like to make public comment, and if you haven't yet done so, please sign up in the back corner. Then we'll have select board liaison and town manager reports. At 7:20, we'll discuss a proposed change to the town personnel policy for military leave. We'll have a public hearing at 7:30 for Bay State Liquor's package store liquor license transfer. Then we'll have a presentation at 8 p.m. from the Reading Food Pantry regarding their request for additional ARPA funds. At 8:30, we'll discuss the select board appointment to the special committee for charter review. At 8:45, we'll have a discussion on the development of a dog park. At 9 p.m., Fidel will give us an update on the hiring process for a new director of equity and social justice and a reporting structure for that position. Then we'll talk about warrant articles for November town meeting, and we'll review a request for qualifications and RFQ for a feasibility study for a senior center. And then, as always, we'll conclude with discussion of future agendas, and we have one set of meeting minutes to approve. So is there anyone in the room who would like to make public comment? Yes, if you could please come up, give your name and address, and try to keep comments to about 2 minutes, please.
Okay.
Thanks.
I will do my best. Give me the high sign because you've all received this letter. My name is Nancy Zimlak. I'm the new chair of the Council on Aging. And as you mentioned, the select board is discussing tonight on the agenda the draft RFQ for the hiring of a designer for a new Reading Active Living Center. The Council on Aging met on August 14th, and after a long discussion, we drafted this letter which expressed some of our concerns with the current wording of the request for qualifications. The first concern that we had was about redundancy of effort between what is highlighted in the RFQ as a responsibility of the contractor designer and the charge of recalc. Both parties having been assigned the responsibilities of conducting a facilities programming study. Without clearly identified differences between the charge of these two entities, we have concerns regarding duplication of effort that could ultimately create a bottleneck that will slow efforts to get these initiatives over the finish line. Furthermore, the perspective of the Council on Aging is that the theme of this initiative and ultimately the end goal should be clearly defined as a senior center and or community center with designated senior space. In Recalc's final report, the needs of the senior community are the identified priority with regards to plans for an active living center. And the RFQ needs to clearly communicate this priority throughout the document. Above all else, Reading needs an active living center that creates an inclusive, safe hub for senior services and programs that is accessible to all in our rapidly growing 60-plus population. Potential use of an active living center for other purposes is not necessarily a value added unless the needs of our 60-plus population are first fully met. In addition, the Council had questions concerning the lack of clarity around the definition of stakeholders. The perspective of the COA is that stakeholders are, did you raise your hand? No, are to be defined as 60-plus community residents of Reading including those that currently use the Pleasant Street Center and those that have not but may wish to do so when an improved facility and programming become available. This is in line with RECALC's final recommendation that the senior community is the primary stakeholder in this next phase. Additional concerns from the perspective of the COA include the 8-month timeframe for completion for the designer study, as well as the ambiguity in the evaluation scoring criteria. We are asking for more clearly defined criteria that is better aligned with the needs of our 60-plus community, as well as looking into ways that the process could potentially be expedited to be able to arrive at a solution in a more timely fashion. Unlike other surrounding towns, Reading's town government in the past has not prioritized the needs of its 60-plus community. The needs of our 60-plus community, currently 27% of town residents and growing, needs to become a priority as they have waited long enough for an active living center. Respectfully submitted, Council on Aging. Thank you.
Thank you. Others who would like to speak in the room? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Ann Mark, 284 Summer Ave. I'm a member of a volunteer group called Reading Composts. And there are great things happening in Reading with regard to food waste composting. The DPW has made starter kits available for those who want to subscribe to Black Earth Compost. They have ordered a couple of batches of home composting bins, made those available at a discount. In the schools, Birch Meadow has been composting in their cafeteria this past year. And so kudos to the DPW and to the school department for getting these activities in motion. I would also say that there seems to be a lot of awareness now among residents in Reading about food waste composting. We now have 455 households that subscribe to Black Earth Compost. And I understand that the home composting bins were just flying off the shelf when the DPW made them available. So, so there are definitely lots of good things happening. People are becoming aware of the environmental benefits of food waste composting. Knowing that that there is this growing awareness of all the good things that come from composting food waste as opposed to sending it to the incinerator, we think that this would be a really good time to include food waste composting in a comprehensive solid waste management program for Reading. I mean, let's face it, food waste is really heavy. It's wet and heavy. And so the possibility of getting it out of the trash seems like a good deal. So, you know, getting the nutrients back into the soil by composting the food waste, not sending it up in flames at the incinerator. And also, we believe that there could be cost savings involved in less getting that weight out of the trash. So we would really strongly encourage you to look into the possibility now that, especially in view of what I know is going to be talked about later tonight, because I read the presentation and I know some of the facts. I saw some of the facts that are going to be presented. That it seems like it would be a good, really next step for the town to add that in to the whole package. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any others in the room? Okay, Caitlin, do we have anyone online who would like to comment?
Yes, we have Linda Snowdoxer who is raising her hand.
Okay, go ahead, Linda.
Hi, I just wanted to say, I know we're going to be discussing the Office of Equity and Social Justice Director position, and I just wanted to publicly thank our past director for all the work and the headway that she made on a difficult position over the time that she's been here. Sudeshna Chatterjee, I want to thank you. I want to thank the mentorship and the support that she got from Library Director Amy Lannon and all of the staff and citizens that have worked with her to do the important events that she has orchestrated, and all of those who have taken part in the trainings that she has also led. She's been incredibly supportive and helpful to groups that I've been involved in, and I know the same for other groups. So I just wanted to publicly thank Dr. Chatterjee for all the work, the 24/7 work that she has done over the last couple of years. And thank her for the headway that she made, and thank the select board for their careful consideration for the office going forward. And thank you to Fidel for his support and guidance and leadership in bringing this position and office forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caitlin, any others on Zoom?
That's it.
Okay. So moving on to liaison reports. Mark, we'll start with you, please.
Sure. So very fortunate this evening to have two members of the Council on Aging present and delivering an update better than I probably could have. But I will mention that, so the council has met actually twice since our last select board meeting. And there have been two topics in particular I'm going to highlight. One is related to taking a more active role talking about the RFQ. The other activity has related to a number of complaints that have taken place about odor and potentially air quality going on at the Pleasant Street Center. And I know that the council is going to be talking more about that at their next meeting. But a study has actually been done, and apparently part of the issue relates to a different time of year than the summer, shall we say. So I know that that is very much on the minds of folks at the center, and something that we need to be aware of in terms of facilities and certainly going forward. So I just wanted to kind of add that. And it's been kind of July, August, so it's been quieter in terms of other activities. So I'll leave it at that.
Chris?
Thanks, Jackie. Could I ask Ann Mark a quick question? So you mentioned it's 455 subscribers. Does it trip over to the lower rate at 500, or is it more than that?
No, it's 500.
Oh, so kind of close to everyone getting a
91%.
discount. Oh, perfect. So 45 more people. Thank you. So I attended as Mark had mentioned, it's definitely been a quiet month in town for meetings and whatnot, but I did attend the last school committee meeting. They ended up changing Dr. Milichevsky's review schedule to be every 2 years instead of every one, like the real diehard extreme one is every 2 years now, and some other one is just a yearly kind of review. So that's one of the changes that they made. They also went over and made 8 policy changes on various personnel and financial issues. And then the one other topic they brought up was the Special Education Reserve Fund from town meeting. So they had a first reading on that, and they'll be voting on the exact language and everything at their next meeting. And then I also gave public comment then about the Dunk the Reddings dunk tank coming back for the Fall Street Fair on September 10th. So last year, we were able to raise over $2,000 for Liliana at Ruffin Redding, who's back to work now. And then the other half went to the Rotary. So this time around, it's going to be the Reading Rotary, as well as the other half is to Autumn Hendrickson. So you saw when she came in that she's funding her book research for the men and women from Reading and North Reading from World War II. She's funding it all out of pocket. And, you know, if we can do something as a, town to kind of help her out, because she's doing work that really nobody else is willing to do. So it's good to see that she's actively involved. I'm happy to help her out in that regard, and, I'm asking for the board's help, school committee, teachers, principals, et cetera, again. Fidel, Dr. Milichevsky have already signed on. Rochelle Rubino emailed me back that she's good. Mark did. I think Jackie, you said that you were. So far we've got a bunch of people, so we're looking for obviously a couple more. So September 10th, dunk tank. And that's it. Thanks.
June. Thank you. So I attended the Library Board of Trustees meeting. There were 2 book challenges known as requests for reconsideration. The chair allowed almost an hour of public comment from the full room, and that was about what it took to have everyone be heard. Library director, as they did last time, these came up, addressed the validity of the 2 items to meet or exceed the library's policies for acquisition. Both items will remain in the collection was the decision of the board. One item was relocated from the children's collection to the teen collection. There may have been, or the second challenge perhaps was not addressed because the library was unable to validate that the person who submitted the request was a Reading resident, and that is a requirement. And let's see, attended the Reading Climate Advisory meeting. They are preparing for the Hazard Mitigation Forum, which I know the town has been advertising. They are also getting ready to work with Andrew McNichol in Planning on our net zero plan. And they are ready and willing to be of service to support our design efforts for the Killam School building as we enter this next phase. We had a successful Killam kickoff that was largely due to Fidel's arrangement and planning. Thank you. Jackie attended that as well. Let's see. Okay, there was a lot of stuff here. It was a really productive meeting with school committee members and our RMLD reps, 2 folks from RMLD, including a geothermal expert. And there was a lot of talk about goals for the district and goals for the school, making it very inclusive, and this would be for the whole district. So that special education is a very inclusive model, not different from what the Council on Aging has been talking about for our new senior center. We want to talk about that, like the last time we did a new school project, the Mass School Building Association wants to see projects that address multiple concerns, as many concerns as possible within the district. Let's see, the superintendent shared that Reading is seeing a demand for more classroom space for special education and now also multi-language learners, which is a relatively new phenomenon for Reading, and also the need for pre-K is driving our space needs. So, part of this design process will be to really work with the community and get that defined, what we need to come from this new building. Let's see, they would love to retire the modular classrooms, that was addressed. We talked briefly about the reimbursement rates. As we go through this project, we should keep in mind there are 2 reimbursement rates. One would be the reimbursement rate for all reimbursable costs, but every project has some costs that aren't reimbursed, so it'll be a second lower rate, sort of saying for the whole project, this would be the reimbursement rate, so we'll hear more about that. Let's see, the next major goal for the Killam School Building Committee is to issue a designer request for services. We met last night and that was a very productive discussion. We managed to go through the draft and I think it's a lot of it's boilerplate, but I think we managed to get all the major concerns on the table, but there still is time for additional input. If anyone on the select board or any other board would like to provide some. I did share it with the Climate Advisory Committee at their request. Okay, so I have been communicating with the our designee to the Reading Ice Arena Authority. We met in June and we were unable to ask any of the financial questions at that time. Neither the general manager nor anyone else came to the meeting, was able to answer those questions. So we had been assured that we would be able to ask these questions. We haven't had that opportunity yet. The Finance Committee has assigned a liaison to the Reading Ice Arena, and it's Joe McDonough, and I did meet with him, and we went over the lease, and we went over the 22 financials, and talked about the effort that the select board has made to bring in RMLD to help them explore solar before they put on a new roof. And he has some questions as well, so he would very much like to go to their annual meeting. Expected it to be scheduled in August, and I've asked to be invited for the both of us. It hasn't been scheduled yet, so I'm still hoping that I will be invited. And finally, green communities, we were promised movement and a great update by the end of the summer. We're approaching the end of the summer and we haven't heard much, so I don't remember if I mentioned last time that I had reached out to Rep. Haggerty, since he's on the telecommunications committee now. And they were the driver of the green communities changes that we got passed. So this week I also reached out to Rep. Jones's office, and we currently don't have an MAPC rep. The deputy director is our acting rep, Mark D. I forget his last name, I don't wanna butcher it, but I've talked to him a couple times and he did say that someone reached out from Rep. Haggerty's office and lit a little bit of a fire over there, so they are aware. I asked, Reading isn't the only community, waiting for this, so, but he, to his knowledge, and it's a big state in a lot of communities, they haven't heard anyone else asking about this yet, but one piece of good news, he was able to share with me that they are planning to extend the deadline for the application for this year to the end of the year. It was currently scheduled for fall sometime, which, depending on our next steps are, if it's a town meeting action, if it's just a select board action, we need to know when that date is, and staff's pretty busy, and they're gonna have to look at that application that we submitted in January and update it, so I thought that was good, having extra time, just gives us every possible opportunity to get into that program this year, so I think that's it, thank you.
Thank you. Just have a few updates. It has been relatively quiet. The Reading Coalition for Prevention and Support meeting late last month went over a variety of programming coming up. If any of you had been on the Mindfulness Monday walks at the Matera Cabin, they were great, and so thank you to staff for putting that together. I went last week. Really nice event. And next week on the Town Common, next Thursday, August 31st, August is Overdose Awareness Month, and so our CPS will host an overdose awareness event at 6 p.m. that night. They will also host some courses this fall at the public library on mental health first aid for adults, older adults, youth, and teens. And they are prepping for the availability of Narcan over the counter for overdose treatment, and once that is more readily available in the supply chain, the coalition will be hosting some Narcan training, which I think is very helpful and timely. Also on the health front, Board of Health met 2 weeks ago, and Public Health Director Ade Solarin live demo a new rodent control contrapest measure, which essentially is rodent birth control. And so staff will manage that, and the advantage of that is that it effectively addresses rodent issues while remaining safe against other animals getting into traps and dying, because of that. I think there had been some concerns about including some endangered species. The Board of Health is still actively awaiting progress from the state legislature on a home rule petition that would allow it to increase its quorum. Currently, the quorum rules prevent the Board of Health members from discussing individually, but our home rule petition, which I believe town meeting approved and has had a hearing at the State House, would increase that quorum to allow at least two members to speak to each other. And one last thing from the Board of Health, they continue their community health needs assessment. They'll be doing some focus groups as well as some outreach at the Fall Street Fair and at the new resident open house, which save the date for that. That's on October 3rd at the library. Last week, the CPDC had some approvals. There was a subdivision stormwater permit approval on Grandview, which is off of Main Street between the town center and Birch Meadow Drive. They also considered a subdivision request for an abutting parcel on Beacon Street. Their next meeting is on September 11th. And then related to CPDC, planning staff and Chris Koleski at the Pleasant Street Center hosted a really informative seminar last week on MBTA communities, and it was well attended, and there were some good questions about kind of how this law came about, what it means for Reading, and what our next steps are in terms of approving the zoning or considering the zoning revisions that MBTA communities would require. And so kudos to Andrew and Mary on the planning staff, as well as Chris Koleski at the Pleasant Street Center. And then lastly, just to note some transitions, we had heard, I think last week, that DPW Director Jane Kinsella announced her retirement next year. You know, I think one of the first and foremost things that the average citizen counts on and depends on for the town is to pick up the trash and keep the streets clear, and she and her team do a fantastic job of that, and so she will certainly be missed, and her shoes will be very, very big to fill. Also saw recently that Lisa Egan, the executive director of the Reading North Reading Chamber, is moving on, and so she will also be missed. I think her work, especially during the pandemic, to help businesses get some more visibility, was fantastic, and so we wish them both well. We know school is starting next week, so just as a reminder, please drive safely, drive patiently, as folks get back into their school year routines. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Fidel for town manager report.
Thank you very much. I want to start with just a general construction update. The engineering reports that the Auburn Street water tank is fully complete, which is exciting news. It was completed without having to do any explosion of the ledge, and it ended up on schedule with their latest update. We are working with the 4 carriers that are going to go in the tank, and one of them that I am particularly excited about it is for Verizon Wireless to go on the tank, because Verizon believes that once they are on the tank, a lot of the reception issues in town, particularly around Birch Meadow and the complex, should be greatly improved if not fixed. We are trying to push them as fast as we can to get on the tank, but I do hope to leverage as much pressure as I can on them. The next update is on Birch Meadow Phase 1. If you've walked the area, you'll notice that the parking lot is largely completed. They are setting granite curbing in the next week, and the hope is to pave at some point, either next week or the week after that. We had a conversation with the contractor, and they requested to keep the parking area enclosed until all construction is completed for safety reasons, but they have pulled back the fencing to allow the sidewalk to be open. We are pushing them as much as we can on getting that fixed. The walkway, if you walk the area, is it's largely complete. The lacrosse wall is fully built, and you'll see that it is upright. We had some delays with the concrete blocks for the actual pavilion, but you should see that going up in the next couple of weeks. The next update is on the parking kiosks. Ben has been doing a lot of outreach, both on social media and in real time. We are doing a digital learning session on Thursday at the Pleasant Street Center to help folks there with downloading the app and learning how to use the digital functions of the kiosks. We are looking at a soft rollout of the kiosk, most likely at the end of September or early October. But that is you know, it's really up to us when we do that. Tags along to my next update, which is that the MBTA has announced that they will be doing a short-term closure on the commuter rail for maintenance purposes. They said that it will begin September 9th, and they expect it to go until October 22nd. They have assured us that service will be equal or better, and instead of the train, what they are doing is they are providing buses, essentially to shuttle folks to Woburn. So we'll continue pushing the MBTA on that. A lot of the folks that came to the building today might have noticed that the push button is installed in the handicap entrance. So the good work by facilities in getting that done. And finally, we have continued to receive complaints on the status of replacing the porta potties, particularly in athletic fields. Myself and Recreation continue to work with the sports leagues on this matter. What they shared essentially is that it's really late in the season. In fact, they thought it was going to be over at the end of the month, and have asked us to leave those in place until the end of October. We have told them that for next season, those porta potties have to be ADA compliant. That's all I got.
Yes.
A couple of questions. One, just to clarify, the new residents open house, did you say October 2nd, Monday?
I believe it's October 3rd.
We just check that one, I think. I wrote down the second, just want to make sure we have it right. And the second comment while looking at that, MBTA on the commuter rail, so in addition to the kind of Woburn transport to get you to the other lines, there also is going to be bus service at least as good as commuter rail service going to Oak Grove. So taking you directly to the Orange Line. So that's an option also if you're ending up connecting at our station to the Orange Line. You may actually get I wouldn't call it a benefit, but you'll have a different connection.
It's the
Was it-
third, 5
It's
to
the 3rd,
7.
Tuesday the 3rd? Thank you.
October 3rd,
I got
5
it
to 7.
Are we meeting that night?
No.
No.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
Okay. Great. So let's move on and discuss the proposed change to the town personnel policy for military leave. Fidel?
Thank you so much. And on the line is our HR director and labor counsel as well to answer any questions. I'll just say that we are bringing this policy before the board because we have a staff member that is being deployed for 1 year deployment in October. So we did want to bring this to the board. There are other changes to the personnel policy that Sean and I are tracking. Certainly, I don't think it's anything that is burning or urgent, but we will likely bring more changes to the board, probably late fall or early winter. With that said, Sean, go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you for having me tonight, everyone. So yeah, as Fidel mentioned, we did have that comprehensive update to our policy last September. It was the prior comprehensive change to the full policy was back in 2009. So we are continuously looking at this. But as Fidel mentioned, we do have this sort of pressing matter with our military leave section. Military leave is one of those items, especially with my colleagues in local government that I've, surveyed and tried to pick their brains about where, and excuse the pun, but it's not very uniform for how, everyone does things. It's kind of all over the place. Everyone, when I ask about this, I've had people saying, oh, whatever you come up with, let me know. It's sort of one of those, tough nuts to crack. So we did look at a couple of policies that other communities were doing, and we looked to update our policy that would do a few things. One is it would lay out clear guidelines on what the town would do for an employee that does either have annual trainings for whichever branch of armed services they're in. In addition to that, it also allows us to have concrete guidelines around deployment pay and what the town would do to take care of those that are serving our country. In the past, we've sort of been a little bit sporadic with this, and we're looking to really, like I said, just sort of solidify this. Fidel and I have had conversations with Labor Council. We've had conversations with members of departments that had members in the service. And we did feel that this was some policy that we could bring forward to have updated and just sort of in our policy moving forward. So with that, this is what we're looking to present. And again, we're a little bit pressed, so that's why we would be asking on, I think it's September 12th, we'd be coming back for a request to add it officially into the policy, as we have someone going out in October. So, thank you, Fidel. I forgot to share. So, are there any questions?
What's that?
I was wondering if our veteran service officer had any comment or input.
You gotta come to the podium.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
I think that this is a wise policy to add to the current policy for our veterans and those that serve our nation as a whole. I know that USERRA is very important to those that are employed in any community, and so this is a policy to which I think would be incumbent upon the community to enact as a part of the policy for those that currently serve our nation in the community. So, any other questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Mark?
If I could just offer more as a comment than a question, I think Fidel, Sean, and Donna, you folks did a really nice job in the background, speaking with each of the board members individually, which is one of the reasons why I think we probably don't have any or many questions this evening, is because we had a chance to kind of already vet things and ask at that time. So I'm very comfortable with what's being proposed here. I think it's spot on.
Same for me.
Okay. So this is a discussion item, so I assume we'll have this on our agenda on September 12th for a vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
And
Thanks,
Donna.
Donna.
And Will.
Thank you, Will. Thanks, Donna. Thanks, Fidel.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so we'll move on to the public hearing. Karen?
Okay, it was scheduled for 7 p.m., so we're fine. To the inhabitants of the town of Reading, please take notice that the select board of the town of Reading will hold a public hearing on August 22nd, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the select board meeting room at Town Hall, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, Mass. Or also available remotely on Zoom to act on a transfer of license application for an annual all alcohol package store license located at 345 Main Street, Reading, Mass. From HT Reading Liquors LLC DBA Bay State Liquors to Nilkan 350 Inc. DBA City Wine, Spirits and Smoke Shop. A copy of the proposed documents regarding this topic will be in the select board packet on the website at www.readingmass.gov. All interested parties are invited to attend the hearing in person or remotely via Zoom, or may submit their comments in writing or by email prior to 6 p.m. on August 22nd, 2023 to town manager at ci.reading.ma.mass by order of Fidel Maltez, town manager.
Thanks, Karen. Is there a motion to open the hearing?
So moved.
Okay, thanks, Karen. Second? Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Okay, we're 4-0. So, Fidel?
Thank you. So actually, on the line is the owner and their counsel. So, Mr. Andrew or Nilesh, would you like to explain what's going on?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Andrew Upton from Upton, Connell and Devlin for the applicant, and with me is Nilesh Patel, one of the owners and the proposed manager of record. This is just a transfer to a new business, and I can tell you a little bit about the applicant's plans for the store and his background and experience, and then we're glad to take any questions, if that pleases the board.
Yes.
Great. Well, the first thing to know is we're not planning to make big changes to the store. The hours will be the same. The floor plan is the same. Nilesh runs some other stores and businesses, and he likes to put his personal sort of mark in terms of design. So he has some plans to upgrade on the inside with some new paint and paper, and to clean things up, to upgrade the inventory. At other businesses, he has a very significant amount of closed circuit TV cameras for security. So he will be increasing the number of those, obviously changing the signage to his name. But overall, the changes should improve the overall quality, but really not surprise anyone who goes in there as anything too radical or new. Mr. Patel is a businessman who owns a number of smoke shops in Boston, and he has just been approved in Boston and at the ABCC as the owner and the manager of record for a new liquor store in downtown Boston. He has tremendous experience in age-restricted products. He has probably checked tens of thousands of IDs, as has the people who work for him. Everyone who works at this place will be TIPS trained. Mr. Patel lives in Cambridge now, but he will soon be moving to Middleton, so he will be much closer to Reading. I talked a little bit about the cameras. One policy we have at all stores is that he saves videotape or digital video, whatever it is these days, to share with the police if ever requested. So although it's hopefully unlikely here in Reading that if the police want to see video of what's gone on, or see his video of what goes on in the plaza or the parking lot, he expects to have a cooperative relationship with them and wants to share that with them if they ever have the need. He is the owner and will be the manager when and if this deal closes. After he does some renovations and gets his systems up and running, we will probably bring in a full-time general manager employee. Nilesh is very hands-on, but he will not be there 50 hours a week like a general manager would. So we just want to be upfront with the board that he will be the placeholder manager. He's fully qualified. But once it's up and running, we'll bring in a full-time employee. And of course, we'll come before the board with a change of manager at that time. This is a family business. He is funding this project with a loan from his brother. His wife is on the corporation and does the books for the company. And they expect to be hands-on, involved, and hopefully running a nice store for the town. And with that, we're glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Karen.
I do have a question. Now that it is called a smoke shop, is this an expansion of these smoking products in this facility? So that there's a new venue for smoking products? I'm not a smoker, I never paid attention. I do
I
drink
believe they
wine.
already have a number of tobacco licenses in place at the store. So, well, we expect to upgrade maybe the quality of the products and the customer service. It won't be that different from what there is now in terms of what they offer.
I didn't see anything from the Board of Health in this application. Is that a process, is that a step that one goes through when or you transfer just the liquor license, you also transfer something to do with these tobacco products?
No, your board does the liquor license, then we have to go to the Board of Health for those licenses.
Thank you. Very good.
Mark?
Thanks, Jackie. Hi, folks. First of all, welcome. We like to meet folks as they're coming into town. One question, I noticed on the application, it didn't talk about any past violations. I just wanted to make sure that that's accurate, that there aren't any, and obviously if there were, how they were resolved.
Mr. Patel is approved for a liquor store in Boston by the ABCC. He is also approved, but has not closed on one in Tewksbury. And because neither one is open yet, there haven't been any violations.
Got it. Okay, sorry. I thought
With the name that implied that there was already. Okay, great, fantastic. Probably should do my usual here. So again, first, welcome. I'm sure we'll have a vote in a moment. But one of the things that's very important to us, and I appreciate that you brought it up, is the notion of compliance. And we as a board take that very seriously also. And love it when we don't have any violations to have to deliberate over. And so really appreciate your understanding of that and working with the board. And at the point at which you have another general manager coming in, we would love to meet that person and be able to reiterate the same point to the person coming in. It's a very, very high priority for us, kind of making sure that the community is run as safely as it possibly can as it relates to alcohol, and obviously other things as well. But for today, we'll talk about alcohol. So thanks.
We are on the same page.
Chris?
Thanks, Jackie. And thank you both. Yeah, I'll just reiterate what Mark said. It's on top of mind for all of us because we received an email that 2 businesses in Reading were recently caught selling, well, what's the word I have used? Alleged, yes. They'll have their day in whatever court, whatever scenario that ends up happening. So it's definitely reassuring to see that you haven't had any because nothing's been opened, but just please make sure to you check 10,000 IDs and just keep going. So thank you.
We hear you. This is a big investment for the family, and they certainly want to both respect the town, respect the consumers, and protect their investment. So they will take this quite seriously.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Or do we,
No, public comment first.
Then we close it?
Can't close. Have public comment first
Okay.
before closing.
so if any members of the public have comments, if you could please come up to the podium and provide your name and address. Thank you.
My name's Peter Siegel. I'm a resident of Reading.
So might wanna go behind
We
the
put you on the other side of the podium, sorry.
podium, thank you.
Thank
I
you.
believe this is it Bay State Liquors that the location? Okay, so I would just say that the nature of alcohol delivery has changed. So a lot of people think it's all people coming in. So many people are buying alcohol through delivery services, and the people in the store are kind and cordial, but it's not all people going in. So standards are set a lot by the app carriers. So it's just something that is changed the way alcohol is being delivered. So I think it's just a normal part of the business, but business retailers need to understand a lot of their business is going to be coming through the app. So the end user for the product isn't always the one walking in. You have delivery drivers that are going and picking product up. So right now they are a player in that market. There's another liquor store in town that's a player in that market. and one of the largest players, and two others also, but one of the largest is Total Wine in Burlington. So the nature of that, so you need to have a system in place that works, but it's a big upside for the retailers and for consumers that cannot get out. But there's safeguards in app delivery, so the drivers have standards that have to be adhered to, or they can't complete the delivery. So on occasion, product has to be returned, product can't be left at the store, but that so it's just the nature of that business, so merchants can choose to be involved in it or not, and I imagine that they'll do that, so it's just something for residents and town people to be aware of. That's all, so if this does go through, welcome to your venture.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Yes, Mark.
Just maybe something for us to take note of. I'm sure that the ABCC has taken note of Mr. Siegel's comment. It'd be great to understand what safeguards they've put into place, and were there to be a violation from a delivery company, how does that work? What's the town's role in that? Be probably good to understand. I'm sure they've thought about it, but let's just kind of see what that is.
Are you asking me that?
I guess if you have an answer to it,
Be
that
great.
I do have an answer. As you probably know, there are two levels of enforcement for alcohol violations. Town officials as designated by the board as officers of the board, who are usually members of the police department, can do it. And then the ABCC does their own compliance checks, stings, and investigations. So if you have a local violation, it comes before this board. If you have one by the ABCC, it goes before the ABCC. Many liquor stores deliver, as I'm sure you know. There are standards and protocols in place about checking IDs that the ABCC enforces, and I'm sure you would too. There are contracts with the third-party deliverers. If you deliver yourself, you need a special delivery permit, and that requires checking of the ID at multiple points. The point of service, which means where the order takes place, must occur at the store. And this is not a new concept. The ABCC has been enforcing delivery restrictions, as have local licensing authorities, for close to 30 years.
probably not at the level that it is now.
They are enforcing quite vigorously now. I can certainly let you know, Mr. Patel has never had any problems, but there are retailers who have, so eyes are definitely on them.
Thank you.
Okay, so if there's no other comment on Zoom, which I don't see any, I think at this point we can close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Thanks, Karen.
Second.
Thanks, Mark. All those in favor, raise your hand. 4-0. Okay, the public hearing is closed. So any further discussion?
Okay. Move to approve the annual all alcohol package store liquor license transfer application from HT Reading Liquors LLC, DBA Bay State Liquors, to Nilkan 350 Inc., DBA City Wine Spirits and Smoke Shop at 345 Main Street as presented.
Okay, thanks, Karen. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Mark. All those in favor?
Can I ask a question first?
Yes.
Is there it's an annual, meaning that it needs to be renewed again at the end of the year, correct? End of 2023.
I believe that's right.
So just the transfer will be in place from now, and then they'll be on the regular cycle with
On the
everybody
regular
else.
cycle.
That is correct.
Okay, thanks, Caitlin.
Okay, thanks for clarifying, Mark. And so all those in favor? Opposed? We're 4-0, so this is approved. So thank you, Mr. Patel and Mr. Upton, and best of luck.
Welcome to Reading.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you for listening. We look forward to working with you.
Of course.
Thank you.
We're seeing you socially.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
you guys for.
Not as a hearing in front of the select board.
Okay.
Yeah, and we look forward, well,
He
you
doesn't
already
ask
left,
about
but we
it.
look forward to when, once their general manager is on board, meeting with them as well, so. Right, moving on, for the 8 o'clock agenda item, a presentation from the Reading Food Pantry regarding their request for additional ARPA funds. I don't know if we have anyone here from the, pantry, okay, I thought so.
We actually have a presenter, I'm hoping that he's here.
You didn't think we'd be running on time?
Doing way ahead, 7 o'clock.
Yeah, that clock's off.
I think
That's
we're
broken.
twice a day.
Howdy, folks, how are you?
Good evening.
Good, how you doing?
We're in the home stretch, hopefully. So my name is Sean Tesoro, a Reading resident and board member volunteer at the Reading Food Pantry, and had an update as well as some other points that we wanted to bring to you. It was ironically about a year ago exactly that we come and asked originally for ARPA funds last year, and the select board was gracious enough to help us obtain some funds that we were able to use over the last year. I'll give you a little bit of update in terms of what happened and where we are with financials, but if we can go through, I don't have if there's a clicker, but go to the first slide.
It's a,
So I wanted to start with
It's an oral
an update in terms of the leadership team, because the first thing I would be remiss if I didn't take a minute to thank Phyllis and Bruce Maxwell, who have been longtime stalwarts and really the engine behind the pantry for a number of years. We've been working through a succession plan with Phyllis for a while because she has reached a point and has given more than her all and was ready to start to step aside. And so as part of our mission as the board, as we knew that the need and the demand was going to increase, was to look at the infrastructure and think about how and what we needed to do to continue to be able to provide that service in the wake of having wonderful volunteers like Phyllis and Bruce want to and need to be able to step back. So we had gone through a process of selecting, creating a position, a part-time position for an executive director. Simone Payment, who is here, who's also a longtime board, not only just a board member, but also a volunteer, ironically was the natural choice, and she accepted the position just last month. So we're grateful that she has given us continuity, but also brings a great amount of knowledge about the pantry, but also about the need that we're going to continue to face. And so that's been a big challenge for us over the last year. As you might remember from last year, we were in the process of applying for our 501c3 for our own number with the IRS, but we had not yet even completed that. We did finally complete that process, and we are our own 501c3 as of this year, which in addition to greater opportunities for fundraising, I think is going to be sorely needed, because again, we'll talk a minute about what the need is. And even what we've seen in just the last year since we were here before you in July of last year, we've seen a pretty dramatic increase in terms of the usage of services. Go to the next slide. So let's talk a minute about the need. We are now serving over 155 households, and we are now also tracking individuals within those households, a larger number of families. That slide, because I was updating everything from last year, that slide was 120 families just 13 months ago. So that's a 30% increase in just 13 months. And unfortunately, the way that we see the tide turning, I think that's probably the tip of the iceberg. And that's sort of backed up by a report that was just published by the Greater Boston Food Bank. Greater Boston Food Bank now estimates that 1 in 3 families in Massachusetts had some form of food insecurity at least at 1 month in 2022. They have a survey that they've done for the last 3 years. This is the 3rd year in a row that they've done it. I can forward you a copy of the white paper. You can Google it. But they do an annual survey, and they break it across all spectrum of society. And their estimation is based on that survey, and doing this 3 years in a row now, 1.8 million people in the Commonwealth have some form of food insecurity or experience food insecurity in 2022. And that's in, coming out of the reopening from the pandemic and from all the other benefits of, the economy growing. as we've seen, you know, the higher inflation, the higher interest rates, all of the things that we think are going to wind through the economy over the next several months and even over the next couple of years, it's no surprise that we do think that the need is going to continue to grow. And the timing is fortunate for us in that we have been able to begin to organize a foundation for future growth through the help of the select board and through the help of the board of the pantry, you know, the church. Everyone has been very supportive and understands the core mission of being able to provide for our neighbors. And the challenge for us, quite honestly, has been that the food pantry, it gets utilized. And we increased, if you remember from last year, we came with a request for, I think it was 3 years of worth of funding at the core to be able to increase, just on inflation alone, the cost of the gift cards that we use to help supplement for the neighbors. And we had gone from $20 to $30 for an individual, $40 to $60 for a family. And I just mentioned that the number of families that we're serving now has gone up dramatically, so now our costs have gone up. And the unfortunate thing is, ironically, just today, we expended the last of the ARPA funds to be able to get through this year, only 8 months worth of the enhanced rate of the gift cards, and we're now dipping into savings to be able to continue at that rate, because we just can't see going back to what the rate was before, because you've all been to the grocery store. I mean, I think with the exception of eggs that have come back down because there was, you know, a bird flu or something that happened for a while, but everything is still more expensive, and it's not projected to go back down anytime soon. And the irony of the food pantry, and I pulled that from the research report from the Greater Boston Food Bank, is that the word is out on pantries, right? Because it is a reliable source in a lot of communities, and so over 50% now of people that reported having some sort of insecurity utilize a food pantry. So it's a blessing and a curse, because we're there to provide the service, but the more that we provide the service, then there are more and more people that are going to need it. So we'll go one more to the last slide. So a couple of other updates and things that we're working on. Number one, with that increased utilization, we do need, we have an ongoing look, continuing need to look for space. And that's a conversation we've been having both with the board, with the church, with all the involved parties, and we'll continue to explore that. Also, we are trying now to, with the 501c3 and there's been a tremendous amount of community support that's always been grassroots. But now with the 501c3 and the ability to really do a better job of structuring our fundraising, we're going to try to work on a campaign beginning with the Fall Street Fair. We'll have a booth to get the awareness out about where we are and what we're doing and how we're growing and what the increasing need is. And that will also coincide with, ironically, 1983 was when the pantry was founded. So we are going to be working on a 40th anniversary campaign as part of all of that. And the initial launch of all of this was to update our website with the 501c3. So readingpantry.org is now been updated. We have the links to be able to donate, and we have all the right contact information, so that as we do look to continue growing, we'll have the opportunity in a more efficient way to be able to gather those funds, because we need to look under every rock, so to speak. We're looking at grants and other donations and not a formalized capital campaign just yet, but we know that that's probably not too far behind. So that is the update that we had, and not sure where we stand or where the town stands in terms of ARPA funding, but if there was ARPA funding, any additional funding available, we would like to submit a request, at a minimum at least for 1 year's worth of the additional gift card program, which runs about $28,000 to $30,000, and that's at the current level of need that we have right now, not even for anticipating any increased need growth. That's with the current number of families that we have, 155 households. So any questions about where we are with the pantry, or any things that we can answer in terms of the mission and what we're doing?
Yes.
Question. So this is a hard story, obviously, it's terrible. How much do you expend per month on helping people with food? I mean, if we were to say, is it $10,000 a month? Is that kind of in the ballpark of
So
things?
of course you would ask me that question when we were kicking ourselves and our treasurer was the one of the board members that was not able to make it this evening.
Sorry.
Do you have a ballpark what that number is then?
Joe, we get funding from, we get food from multiple sources, from the Greater Boston Food Bank. We purchase food from Market Basket and Stop and Shop with money that we receive in donations. In terms of how much goes out, I'm sorry, we can't tell you.
So the reason I ask is just to give the community kind of an understanding of where the deficit is, how big it is, and literally how much money you're needing on a continual basis. So if people are wondering, you know, where can I make a donation, or you know, gee, they already have plenty. No, they don't.
Yeah.
But just kind of how to kind of put that together, because I'd imagine the need is substantial and growing, as you outlined, and it's an ongoing kind of thing. It's not kind of a one-time plug. It really is a, how do we do this? I applaud that you've got a new website and things. Come to the street fair, and I'm sure you're encouraging donations at the fair, which would be wonderful. And thinking about what it is that, you know, we can do as a town to be supportive. But I think largely it's obviously has to be privately funded in terms of ongoing activities. So whatever we can do to be helpful that way, I'm sure that, you know, as board members or as a board, we'd be happy to try to figure that out.
And I think that's a big part of it right now, is just getting the word out. There are still plenty of residents that don't know that we have it. And let's be honest, for folks that are in need, a lot of times there can be a stigma attached with utilizing a service like this that's there for them, but it can be very challenging. So I think making people understand that it's available, B, that, you know, it is open to anyone that has a need, and then also letting them know that we are looking to continue to expand those services to make sure that we are addressing the need at its core, which is for the residents locally. So I think the website, like you had said, and now getting more visibility around it with the 501c3 to make the donation process easier. We've got the donate button on the website now. So I think that's a big piece of it, is, and quite honestly, a big part of the reason why I wanted to be here, knowing that things have changed that much in 13 months, but also the fact that we have a lot of good things going for us, and we've got tremendous volunteers, the people of the town that come and donate their time and their effort and their energy, and, you know, all of that in addition to their money and their food. We wouldn't survive without them. So I think it's making sure that we have awareness around it, and, you know, that's why we're here, so.
I can't, this doesn't address the monetary needs that you have, but every time a call goes out, I look what I have in my pantry to get to the food pantry, but I don't find the hours to be accessible at all. Thinking off the top of my head here, would it be possible to have a donation bin in town hall, which is open Monday through Friday, which is not too far from your location?
You donate donation bins in all the grocery stores too.
Yeah, if I don't
Okay, fair enough.
nose.
No, that's-
Yeah, and I am aware of them. I just wanna let you know, I do see them when I'm walking through there. And everybody responds to your pleas differently, but one thing that I have found myself doing is driving around for days with donations in the back of my car. So, but to your request, I don't believe we have ARPA funds left. I don't know if you actually said that. I believe we spent them all. You probably don't remember because the treasurer's not here. Does anyone remember what we allocated last year?
I think it was 19,000 and change, 19,600, I think.
And I remember we were talking about capital improvements, but did that address any capital improvements or just food?
So it was a combination, primarily the gift cards, and then what was one for the freezer storage? Freezers, additional freezers and storage units that we were able to install, which has been helpful as well.
46,200.
Was the total.
Was the total.
Architect too.
I'm sorry?
Architect too.
Oh, for the design, for the architect, for the design portion as well, so.
Yeah, I wish we had more.
But again, we appreciate the time and the support, and, you know, as we continue to look for other opportunities, we'll keep you posted and update you on our progress, so.
I mean, I would love to be able to help promote whatever campaign you are running on the, I don't know if this is a problem, to also put it up on the town Facebook page as well, which tends to get moved to very large Facebook groups, and there are a lot of people that seem to respond to those kinds of pleas in the moment, anything else you can think of that we can do to help.
Yeah, I think initially, we want to get a press release out regarding Simone coming on as the executive director, because that, becomes another point of contact and another point of outreach. And then certainly when we get to a point of, when we do really have our act together in terms of the capital campaign and what we're gonna do for space, then we're gonna need the community, as much, if not more, then as we do now. So I appreciate that.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Rep. Jones, and maybe Rep. Haggerty came through with some additional funding as well.
25,000 has been earmarked for any expansion efforts at the food pantry undertaking.
Okay, so that's not going for food, it's going for capital, okay.
Thank
Is
you.
it, you come to the new resident open house too?
We've talked about that.
We've talked about it, to be determined, but yes, we are hoping to have someone in attendance.
Chris?
Thanks, Jackie. And thank you for coming in and presenting that. I don't think it was mentioned what the request was. It's 10,000, correct?
For
Additional
the
funding.
current funding, well, ideally, we were hoping to get funding for one more year's worth of the gift card program, which at the 155 households at the increased level with the 40 and the $30 and the $60, sorry, it was 28,700 was the total number, would be the official number for the record, I guess.
Yeah, because just doing quick math and seeing the way that things are going, I don't even think that's enough. You know what I mean? Like it just, I don't know how you are going to come out of the hole that you're currently in. Just seeing the way that it's being presented up there, as well as it's the same, I don't want to equate it to parking, but it's the same thing. We have no parking. Now we're going to fix the parking. Now the problem with that is now more people are going to come because the parking has been fixed. So you're advertising the same thing, that we want to see more families, etc., and you're just going to compound more and more money and food and everything that's required just to keep it going. I mean, I know we don't have ARPA fundings left per se. I know we have it in various other kind of spots, like COVID and whatnot. I mean, I'm fine with helping. I just think something has to be done, something drastic. I know you just mentioned the 501c3 got done. It just, I don't want to say I feel bad because you're helping people, but at the same time, it's a bad position to be in. At the same time, you're helping people that are in the position in the first place. So I'm not sure, to Mark's point, what we can do beyond, after the ARPA funding is completely gone. So, but definitely whatever we can do to get the word out there is, has to happen. Because I don't know, is it only Reading that you take care of? So there's no other communities or anybody else?
Reading residents.
Yeah.
I appreciate the sentiment for sure, because it does feel like a hole that you can't get yourself out of. I think the caveat to that is, number one, the generosity of the benefactors of the town are always an offset to that. And so, there is always the unknown bequest when someone passes away, or, in a state, or there are always those pieces of the puzzle that do help in that regard. Our strategy as a board, knowing that that is one of the challenges, is again to expand the network that we are looking at for funding. To look at, not just to keep coming to the town every year and say, oh, we need more money, but really to look at every avenue, grants, every opportunity we have, and utilizing the 501c3 to its fullest to be able to help that with that offset. But that's the only difference I would make between the parking issue is that people won't just automatically come and donate parking, right? They will come and donate food constantly. They'll donate their time. They will donate, their money. And, thank goodness that we have that, because that's the one piece that keeps us afloat and, gives us an opportunity to continue to expand those services. But a point well taken that, the strategy has to be well thought out in order to help combat that, so that you're not just finding yourselves, stuck in the same rut.
And how do you determine between gift cards and food? Like, if someone is in need, like, what is determining that they would get a gift card as opposed to what you have in stock kind of thing?
Yeah, Simone, do you wanna?
They, so people get a gift card in addition to the food. that
So
they-
all one,
Can you please come up to the podium so folks at home, thank you.
so all 155 or so residents are getting gift cards as well?
Yes, so people are eligible to come to the pantry in person twice a month. If they can't come to the pantry because of an injury or other problems of mobility, we have a delivery program that also happens twice a month. And so each time a person visits, they fill out an order form of available food. One of the order forms is standard with things that we always have, pasta, canned vegetables, things of that nature. And then a second order form with things that change, like fresh produce or frozen meat that we get from the Greater Boston Food Bank, eggs, things like that, again, from the Greater Boston Food Bank. And then they also get a gift card to Market Basket. As Sean mentioned, it's $30 for individuals and $60 for family. And that, family could be 2 people, it could be 7 people. And that's really one of the increases that we've seen this year is number of families utilizing the pantry. So we had a 337% increase in number of children being served by the pantry. So we're just more food is going out the door from people choosing from those order forms. And again, I want to echo what Sean said. The generosity of the Reading community has kept us going for years and continues to keep us going. But we're seeing shortfalls in amount of food donations that we get at Market Basket and Stop and Shop. There have also been problems at the Greater Boston Food Bank because they're supporting all of Eastern Massachusetts, and all pantries are seeing an increased need. So they're having shortages. They've got staffing problems, so their warehouse is short-staffed, and that hurts them in being able to get food out the door. And then, of course, inflation, as Sean has mentioned, when we purchase food to supplement what we can't get from the Greater Boston Food Bank or what we don't get in donations, we use monetary donations from the community to purchase food at Market Basket or Stop and Shop, and we always shop the sales. But our money doesn't go as far because of inflation, so.
Do you get any kind of deals or discounts with you purchasing that much stuff from either Market Basket or Stop and Shop, or it's just like me?
We do from Stop and Shop.
Okay, that's good to know.
Not from Market Basket, even though we spend the bulk of our money at Market Basket. We have people who go and shop for us twice, 2 people who go once a week to shop for things that we need on our list. And that's, we try to put things on the list that are on sale so we can, but Stop and Shop does give us a discount. We're working on Market Basket.
I would say with the 501c3 now, it seems probably easier for them to do something because now they can write it off as a donation.
I actually contacted Market Basket's director of community engagement, I think, today, and said, here's how much we spend a week at the stores, and here's how much we give people to spend at the Reading store. I know you don't give discounts on the gift cards, but is there anything you could do to help us in other ways to meet the growing demand?
Thank you.
So are you finding that do you have data or even an estimate on, how many of your visitors are taking an order form for food, gift card, both? I mean, is it?
Yeah, I mean, most people would do both.
Okay.
And the people who don't come to the pantry but get delivery, they do also get a gift card and probably have friends and family shop for them if they aren't able to physically leave their house.
And are the gift cards specific to like a Stop and Shop and Market Basket, or
They're
are
all
they
to
like
Market
a cash?
Basket.
Okay, so none to Stop and Shop.
No, we feel in general that your money goes a little farther at Market Basket if you're just buying without shopping what's on sale.
Right.
Okay. So.
And then a question for Fidel. Can you clarify our position with respect to remaining ARPA funds?
Absolutely, thank you.
Because it's news to me that we don't have any.
So I will say that all of the money was allocated.
Okay.
That's probably the right word. Your first allocation as a select board was 250,000 towards COVID mitigation, essentially, and that went to buy test kits, right? I think it was as I was getting here, and then we have since tagged on a few things onto it. Actually, out of that fund, we are paying for the community needs assessment that is being done by public health. And if you recall, I want to say maybe 2 months ago or so, the public health department came and asked you to fund their digitization efforts, right? And it was funded out of this line. As of August 17th, there is $73,000 remaining in that line out of the original 250. However, public health is not done with the community needs assessment yet, and this line, of course, has come up in a lot of conversations. I think initially we were hesitant to be open about this line because we didn't know where COVID-19 was going and if any emergency funds were necessary. I still don't know, but I'm very hopeful at this point that we won't need it. So I guess with that said, that is the one line that we can comfortably say that there are funds remaining.
And that's not actually ARPA, right?
That is
Because
ARPA
you're-
funds.
Okay, that is ARPA.
That is
Okay, because it sounded like some of the things you were referring to were like very early 2020 era.
No,
That's ARPA.
it's all ARPA
Okay.
funds, yeah.
Okay. And you said 75,000?
So
With the caveat that the community health needs assessment is still ongoing and will need
that's correct.
funding.
So it's 73,000, and half of the community needs assessment has been paid for, but half remains. So it is about 30,000. For your meeting on September 12th, I can have a more accurate firm number on that.
Okay, yes, Mark.
I think before we start thinking that we have money in our pockets, we need to talk to the health department and a few other things. I know that we've been hearing from some epidemiologists recently requesting certain things that we kind of shut down, that we ought to at least be taking a look at. But the health department is the group that I think needs to weigh in here before we do much of anything here.
Karen?
I just wanted to share, and hopefully this eases the pressure a little bit. If you hadn't heard that the school department will now be offering lunches to all students free of charge. That was just a recent decision, and clearly it's needed.
And state funded, right?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, that was
I
part of
don't
the
know who
state
it's paying
budget
for it.
that was passed recently. Yeah. Chris?
Thanks, Jackie. So Fidel, well, you weren't here either, neither was I. How is COVID handled in the beginning? Like, we didn't have ARPA money then, so where did the money come from?
So the federal government, I was in Chelsea, and we spent a ton of money in Chelsea. The federal government passed the CARES Act, and CARES was essentially like pre-ARPA, right? And it was mayhem. Yeah, it was yeah, pretty intense.
I guess I'm just under the mindset that the state got rid of the whole reporting of COVID-19, et cetera, going forward. And if something were to happen again, I would assume that we'd be compensated, or where would we pull the money from anyway? I'm sure we can get it from somewhere other than ARPA.
I believe, sorry.
Yes.
I hope I never cross that bridge, but yes.
The finance committee, if you recall, was able to allocate some funding at the select board request out of their, the $250,000 reserves.
And is all the other line items from ARPA gone?
They're allocated.
Allocated.
They're allocated.
Like, have you confirmed that things have been done, et cetera? I know the school got 2 million for curriculum. Did they use the entire amount on curriculum?
They have a contract for that entire amount. I check on it on a regular basis. You know, we had a conversation about the RFQ for the senior center as an example, right? I mean, not all of the work has been done and not all the funds were spent.
Alrighty.
Yes, Mark?
Just going to that end, every penny is gonna have to be accounted for. And
Correct.
if it turns out that the day before everything has to go, there's something left, we'll find something to do with it.
Water and sewer.
Yeah.
A candidate.
Okay, so I'm gonna propose here that with Fidel and the town staff's help, we kind of determine the remaining needs for the community health needs assessment and, you know, get, to Mark's point, some opinion about the future COVID funding to the extent that there's a demonstrated need for such funding, but then kind of come back with what we can do to help the food pantry. And I know we're not talking about agenda items until later, but I think in the interest of time would want to get this back on an agenda in September with the benefit of that information. So, do my fellow board members have any other thoughts or comments on that?
501c3 means you go after foundation money.
Yes, we are in the process of applying for grants.
Stop and Shop is a big one.
Lots of
Cummings.
Cummings, the banks, so Eastern Bank, the Cooperative Bank.
I put a call into Winchester and thanked them again for the last donation they made for you. I told them they donated to a number of communities, like they do, and I told them we'd love to see another check in December or earlier.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, discuss select board appointment to the special committee for charter review. As you might remember, we are required to appoint a designee from the select board by September 14th. So that puts us at a discussion tonight and hopefully a vote, or it would need to be a vote at our next meeting on September 12th. And so open the floor. I think, Chris, you had expressed interest at our last meeting.
Yeah, definitely. No, like I had mentioned previously, I'd be honored to represent the select board on that. With the park committee wrapping up previously and then ARPA and then, you know, I have availability to just be able to serve on this with Alan and everybody else. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'll be able to make every meeting. I know it's 24 meetings or something like that for Dell. So I'm good to go.
I just wanted to update the board on who's been nominated, I guess, so far.
Sure.
So the bylaw has nominated Jesse Arnold, their chair, to serve. The Library Board of Trustees has nominated Andrew Grimes to sit on this committee. RMLD has nominated Phil Pacino. And the town moderator has nominated two individuals, Bill Brown and Jeff Beckwitz. He needs to nominate three, and along with himself. So we are still awaiting nominations from the select board and the school committee. And the school committee is going through that process right now.
Any other comments?
I guess if I could ask Fidel, did we not have enough applicants for Alan to do three people? Because it was three, right?
It was three appointees. He received, some of the applicants were not town meeting members.
Oh,
So we received more than three, but some of them were not, and it has to be town meeting members.
yes.
Correct.
So it sounds like that committee still needs, you said us, school committee, and one more town meeting member appointed by the moderator.
That's right.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll put the vote on that designee on our agenda for September 12th. Okay, next item, discussion on the development of a dog park in Reading. I know since our last meeting last month, there was a public forum. Fidel, I'll turn it over to you and others in the audience to update us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So I think we have, not me, maybe Chuck and Mr. Cool have turned every stone, I'll say, in Reading, but in town land and private land at this point. So we held a public forum where we discussed a lot of the properties that were optional. We left the public forum with hearing a lot of concerns about, for example, Oakland Road, for example, Simon's Way, some concerns about the property that's is near the town forest, next to the old water treatment plant. So none of them were very clear. We left the public hearing with the thought of pursuing Hunt Park, and the following Tuesday we had a meeting with the abutters who expressed just a lot of concerns, I'd say, about additional parking conditions, additional traffic impact, and essentially. Most of the properties that we have looked at so far are in that boat of are currently occupied for some kind of use, and we foresee some challenges with abutters. We have talked to the Simon's Way committee at their last meeting, and they agreed to put the dog park in the next agenda. But similar to their concerns with pickleball, they didn't want to bypass something as they're going through the process. So putting the dog park ahead of every other research possibility was not something that they expressed a lot of interest in. Yeah, that's what I want to share. I don't know if Mr. School has anything to share.
Thank you, Fidel, members of the Select Board. Last week, Chuck Terroni and I inspected 3 properties, you might even say 4. We looked at 2 areas at Simon's Way, one on the western side, one on the eastern side, to look at their appropriateness for a dog park. We looked at the terrain, the size, the shape of the area, and we'll need some more discussion, some further discussion with the Select Board, and perhaps with someone who can give us a better idea of exactly where the boundaries might be of that property. We also looked at the Beverly Road property owned by or administered by the Water Department, and Chuck and I could see some promise there for maybe a 2-section dog park, or move the existing little bit of road there so we could have one combined dog park. Problems there could be the narrowness of the road getting in there, and it's a little bit remote. Some people might be uncomfortable going there, but from what we could see, it looked like it could be turned into a decent dog park. There are abutters, as with Hunt Park, 4 or 6 families that are right on that little section of Beverly Road, which is not very long, just 2 or 3 houses on each side. We also looked at a piece of privately owned property. I won't mention it, but Mr. Maltese is aware of it, and you all may have heard about it as well. And I had a good discussion with the, let's say, the person in control of it yesterday, and this person will be talking with other executives in the company and see what they think. It's a long shot, but it would be a very prominent place, if you will, for a dog park. Everyone
would immediately know where it is. And I see the benefits to that organization, being the publicity, having their name associated with it, because you couldn't say Reading Dog Park without saying Reading Dog Park located at. So that, as I said, seems to be a long shot, but a possibility. In my mind, the two properties that fit most of the criteria very well are Memorial Park, but we understand the problem there, and Hunt Park. I can say regarding Hunt Park that Mr. Maltese, Chuck Tyrone, and myself did meet with one abutter and his dad shortly after the forum, and they expressed a lot of opposition to it. However, at the same time, I did hear from other people in the area saying that they loved the idea. So at the time, the abutter said he had gathered a petition with signatures, and I believe Fidel may have had a glance at it. I haven't seen it. It was not given to us. So, I suppose we could reach out and directly sample the opinions of folks in the neighborhood, because Hunt Park is close to the center of town. People know where it is. It's already actively visited, although one of the concerns that the abutter and his dad had was the effect on the parking in the area. Yet, as I've mentioned many times, typically when we go to a dog park, you don't see more than 5 or 6 people there at a time. They'll stay for an hour or so, and there's a lot of turnover. The most number of dogs I've ever seen at a dog park is 12 or 13. I've asked some other people their experiences, and that's really consistent with my experience. If there's anything I can answer right now, I'd be happy to hear questions.
Yes, Mark.
When you're through, I am a direct abutter to Hunt Park, so when you
please.
through, what's the purpose of my visit?
Okay.
What are you thinking about as next steps?
Pardon?
What are you thinking about for next steps in terms of exploration?
Way, consideration. Beverly, perhaps we can get some input from, I don't know if it's our GIS administrator or a town architect, someone like that, who could give us some specifics about where the boundaries would be, because when Chuck Tyrone and I were there, we saw a lot of water in the area, particularly on, I guess you'd call the north side, the left side of the arena. Had some concern for me. I did come away with a lot of mosquito bites. And part of that was from Beverly Road, part from Simon's Way. So that is a consideration.
Okay. So it sounds like kind of continue with each of the possibilities as you're seeing them right now, and then perhaps come back
Yes.
whenever possible with some updates.
Yes.
And you're still in contact with the foundation in terms of timing?
I spoke with them, I believe it was a week ago yesterday, to look into the flexibility that they're offering. And when Fidel and I met with Greg Phipps, the general manager of RMLD, I knew going in that, I believe it was shortly after that the foundation would be willing to fund a piece of land not directly owned by the town, but let's say controlled by a town department like the water department, or closely associated with the town like RMLD. So should RMLD be able to offer us something? We liked the area on West Street, although it's a little bit remote, but it's a good open area. So, should they see fit to offer us some land, that's certainly something I would be interested in knowing about.
Yeah, I was just wondering, so RMLD owns some land on West Street, is that what you're saying? Do you happen to know the address?
Sorry?
Do you happen to know the address, the number?
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't, but as you're going down West Street to the intersection where that Exxon station is or something.
So towards
It's on
south.
your right-hand side. There's a large apartment complex on the left. And I've forgotten the name of the road that goes into the apartment complex, but you would see it on the right-hand side. There's an opening, the property goes back some distance. You'll see some lines overhead, electrical lines.
So I think it's by the Wilmington border, is that right? It's heading West Street almost to
Yes,
Wilmington.
yeah, I'll share.
Right,
I'll
on the
share the
right-hand
screen.
side.
Is it
This is by
Wilmington or
Johnson
Woburn?
Woods.
It's near,
There's gas stations at both ends and there's apartment buildings at both ends.
it's near Austin Prep.
Yeah, just
So it's,
past the,
so it's, this is the property over here, basically, so. Yeah, it's easy to see. RMLD is itself looking for land right now. So if there were a swap available, they would be amenable to hearing about it. Mr. Maltese and I could not.
That is the, connected to the Materos Homes, that's the entrance that's being worked on?
No. This is essentially, there is a substation. So the property that I'm showing right here is a substation.
Yep.
That's owned by RMLD, and this is their access basically. So they have access through Causeway Road, but also access through West Street.
So you, after you pass the Austin Prep entrance going southwest, you would see it on the right?
you hook her right at the light, so pass Austin Prep, hook her right at the light onto West Street. They keep going down west, almost
To the Wilmington line.
Yep.
Okay,
Close to the highway.
interesting, thank you. Yes, Chris?
Thanks, Jackie. So I used to live on Causeway Road. And Beverly Road, which you mentioned, which is across the street from it, it's just a nightmare over there from a traffic kind of standpoint, at least from when I was over on Causeway Road. I think other than RMLD doing a land swap or whatever, I think, like I had mentioned during the forum, the least controversial spot in Reading is the left side of Simon's Way. The right side, my own opinion, I would never give away the right side until it's done. The left side, that's completely up in the air for whatever wants to get done, in my own personal opinion. So I think it's more of, you would have to focus on something like that unless RMLD or the private person that you had mentioned would be doing something. Otherwise, with Hunt Park, Beverly Road, anything with the butters, you're gonna run out of time, and it's not worth us to kind of impede upon other people over there. I understand we can overrule them, do whatever we want, but we don't want to do that. Like, we need the public input, et cetera. You don't have enough time for us to get it for free, you know?
We understood very, very clearly the concerns of the two gentlemen we met with after the forum. And so, while we like the idea of Hunt, I personally like the idea of Hunt, clearly, there is opposition to that, which I understand, absolutely.
So hopefully with SWEC or whatever, if on the agenda is the left-hand side or whatever, like you mentioned, I that's the least controversial of everything. No one's gonna be up in arms about the left side of Simon's Way.
Yeah.
That's my opinion, just on the whole thing. And to miss out on 250 grand as soon as it trips over to the next of the year, I don't see it ever happening in Reading. So.
I think we should pursue every possibility. So, once something looks good, unless there's a competing location that also looks nearly as good, I think we should go for it. As I said about Simon's Way, we really need to better understand the boundaries and the terrain. So I'm not in a position to make that assessment. Perhaps someone working with the town is. So if the board could, or Fidel could, look into that, that would be great.
Thanks.
Did you want to recognize Mr. Siegel?
Sure, yes.
Sorry.
Peter Siegel, I live at 194 Pleasant Street, directly across from Little League Park. So I just would hope that our park doesn't turn to the dogs. It's a park that's used 7 days a week by children, people walking their dogs, kids playing in the playground. My concerns are I don't want the field to turn into a cesspool. Dogs can spread disease through other dogs. They take it home from, if there is an unhealthy dog and it's tracked home to tracking in the manure, the feces, the odor. But I believe it's a park that's used for everybody, for multi-purpose. It's not excluding dogs, but we just don't want a field where people throw frisbees, read books, watch ball games. I just don't, not against dogs, not against your effort for wanting a dog park. I just don't think that that's a small park in a tight area where parking is tight for people coming on Gardner. My property is at, it borders Gardner Road and directly on the first base side. So I'm a direct view of that park. A lot of young people have moved in on Gardner Road and Wilson Street. Many of them have young children, and when they buy those homes, they see the park, they see the ball field, and most of them have said it's a great place to play and walk a kid in the swings. So the town does a good job taking care of the park. Little League does a nice job keeping the park clean. I do the same. So it's just, I think it would be too much of an ask to use that property. I believe it's against what the park was founded for. I believe that it was donated, the land, when the wax people came in, that it was a park for families and children and sports. So I just wanted to speak out that we love our park the way it is, and we would like to keep it that way.
Thank you. Okay, well, I do see in the request for information that the SWEC committee, I guess, released or that will be advertised next week, that there is discussion and inclusion of a dog park as one of the survey responses of interest for the uses of the park. I also see in the RFI map that there's a labeling of the of a potential location for a dog park at Simon's Way. So it sounds like there's still not a super strong consensus, but it does sound like, to Mr. Cool's points, Simon's Way is worth considering. Unfortunately, we don't have our liaison to SWEC here tonight, but perhaps that's something we can talk to Carlo about or SWEC when they meet again. I'm a little bit more optimistic than Chris in terms of prospects for this. I understand that the time is ticking on the Stanton Foundation grant, but I also know that the Reading's dog owners are, as it will be, as enthusiastic about their dogs after the end of this year. And so, I hope we can take a look at that use there. So Chuck, and then, yep, and then Angela. Sure, if you'll come up, please.
She's a member of SWEC.
Yes.
I just, Chuck Taroni, Conservation Administrator for the town of Reading. And, hi Chris, so we went to Simon's Way, and this was the first time I really got a chance to look at the right-hand side. And what's in the weeds, what's in the woods is pretty much untouchable. So until it opens up into a field or into a mowed area, I don't think there's any opportunity for a dog park over there. So that really limits what I had said to the SWEC committee, because it looked like there was possibilities. And beyond, deep in the woods, there's a chain link fence. So I don't understand why that's there, but it really cuts off the up and dry land.
So are you talking about the left or the right-hand side?
Talking about the right-hand side as you.
So I'm thinking.
The left-hand side as you drive in is what I'm talking about.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because I was talking the right-hand side that SWEC is currently looking all over.
SWEC's on the right-hand side, and they have that open space that they're looking at. And so what Mr. Cool is proposing is a dog park. And it looks like a dog park can take any shape that works out for the dogs. And so the hope is that the SWAT committee has a list of things, but on that list, the dog park can be. And so maybe some corner where the parking won't fit, or pickleball, or a building, or something else doesn't fit, this dog park can fit in that area. And I'm not saying that we want to reduce the size, but if it's on the list and it can be thought about when the design happens and you've picked your items for that area, then maybe a dog park can fit there. So that's why it's important to understand what's needed, and I think that's the process, what they're going through now. What is the list and who's on the list at this point? And then they can decide where these pieces fit. And once they do that, maybe the dog park is 6th on the list and only 3 things work. But number 4 and 5 are too big, leaving the dog park. So the hope is that we just get on the list, it's considered, and maybe it'll work. So just, don't give up until, I guess, until the lights go out. So that's what I would say. The other thing that's good about the Stanton Fund is that we get the Stanton Fund, that infrastructure that comes with a dog park also helps the build out for the whatever happens at the with the SWAT committee. So they're going to need lights, they're going to need parking, they're going to need sidewalks like that. This is for the dog park, but those also help whatever goes in at Simon's Way. So that's all I wanted to say, just to make sure that it's a benefit to everyone. There's $200 and something thousand if we get the fund to move forward, and so then people won't bear the whole cost of putting out whatever the building is, the pickleball courts, the walking, the parking, all that, and the lighting. So anyways, thank you.
Thanks, John. And Angela, I neglected to notice the fact that we do have a member of the SWAC committee, so Angela Vinda, thank you.
Angela Vinda, SWAC committee, represented from the rec committee. So I wasn't at the last meeting where the RFI was finished, but it was discussed and I had sent in comments. So that has gone out. Mr. Cool did present at the meeting, but all he did was speak at public comment. So we really don't have, we really haven't seen any plan or any, idea. I think he said it about 20,000 square feet, but I think that's what he said. But we haven't seen like that would fit here or that would fit here. I think the feeling of the committee is that it would be difficult to give away land without having a fuller picture of everything. But you don't want to give away the center and have to build around it. And as I understand the charge, we are not necessarily coming up with this is the plan, but these are possibilities. This is to present to the select board numerous plans. And we heard from pickleball, we will hear from Mr. Cool, and whoever else presents for Mr. Tirone for the dog park. We don't have a meeting scheduled for October. For September. We're not meeting again. So I don't know if it's a time sensitive thing, if we should have a meeting in September, and or if presenting to the select board or to the SWAC can wait until then. And again, the number one thing that came up on the survey was outdoor recreation facilities. Number 2 was indoor recreation facilities. Number 3 was open space. People did say that they would like that. It was on the list. It wasn't the top 3, but it was up there. But also with our criteria, we have determined, one of our criteria was that it doesn't cost the town a lot of money. So if we have a dog park and the town has to spend $300,000 for it, that might be lower. If it's free, then that might bump it up as one of the suggestions, but again, you know, we're waiting to hear back from the RFI before any decisions are made, but, you know, if there's a piece of land that isn't in the major area, then that would be worth considering too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Chris?
Thanks. Just one follow-up. So Fidel, when is the RFI due back?
September 28th. September 28th.
And like, how realistic is SWEC by, the sunset date is December 31st, right?
I think they're supposed to present something to the select board December 31st, but I think it goes into 2024. I think that's right. I'm looking up.
I'm just afraid that's gonna run out of time as well. It's just my concern.
June 30th, 2024.
Oh.
Sunset.
My concern is just the money, essentially. We'll lose the money once the year trips over, and 250 grand coming up with that from somewhere else when we can't even find something currently just doesn't seem feasible. So I guess we'll have to see what the study brings back, et cetera, and I mean, go from there. If you said September 28th, that's, you know, hopefully enough time, but we'll see.
Yeah, so I think it would be helpful to get, just not for, just for the dog park purposes, just in general, to have maybe an early October review of what the SWEC RFI comes back with, or at least an update on their process, and then we can talk in more detail about possibilities for a dog park location there. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
It occurs to me that the fewest moving parts involve the Beverly Road property. There's so much competition for Simon's Way, and as Ms. Vinda pointed out, they don't have it on their agenda. They're not having a meeting in September unless perhaps one is called. So it does seem that you know, it's worth looking at the simplest solutions, because the complicated ones all seem to be adding time, and we could see ourselves just run out of time. So I think it's worth seriously considering what is the simplest solution, and you know, perhaps, you know, whoever could look at the this one area of Simon's Way and Beverly Road, and perhaps give us a better idea of what the possibilities are. We could find something that excludes an area. So I would like to see, you know, some resources apply. Give us better information, because we're sorely lacking information, I think, right now about Beverly Road, and it's uncertain what could happen with the SWEC committee, and so that's right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a 5-minute break.
Sure. Yeah, we'll adjourn. It's 9.
Recess.
Or sorry, recess, not adjourn. We'll have a 5-minute recess, and we'll reconvene at 9:05. Thanks. we're back in session. And next item is to discuss the Director of Equity and Social Justice hiring process and reporting structure. Fidel?
Thank you. So I would like to report first that the hiring process is going. I feel optimistic about the hiring process. I'll say that. So we posted the job as soon as Sudeshna gave her notice. We received 50 applicants. Sean screened many applicants on the phone. We actually held interviews over the last 2 days. We interviewed six people. Out of those six, we feel really good about 3, and we are bringing them in for a second interview. We might expand that to 4, depending on how it goes. The second round of interviews will be in person, and we created an interview committee with staff, but it included Lieutenant Pat Silva, Amy, of course, Sean, Erica McNamara, Jenna Fiorenti, myself, I think, and Curtis Martin from schools. So I feel good about the committee and getting their input on this process. With that said, I'm hopeful that we hire someone soon. I have spoken to a few of the select board members. We brought it up to PAIR at one of their meetings, and I have also spoken to a few members of the library board of trustees. In Sudeshna's transition, I'll say, she shared that in her opinion there would be a lot of benefit to having a reporting structure that essentially made this position more town-wide, if you will, and wasn't just on the library, and that this position is a position that should influence multiple town departments, and that list of folks that I shared in the interview committee are some of them, right? HR obviously has a lot of overlap with this position. Reading PD, of course, does. The schools has overlap. Recreation is one that we talked a lot about in terms of inclusive programming. As we talked about this hiring process, we talked about the benefits structurally that would come out of having this be a town-wide position, if you will, both in writing and in practice. And with that said, the best way that we thought about was by moving the reporting structure of this new employee to report directly to the town manager. This is something that we talked about a lot with a lot of the members that I shared, PAIR, Library Board of Trustees, so if we are to pursue that, then the question is, where does that person sit? While I would love for that person to sit in town hall, we don't have a lot of office space in this building. So in communications and really conversations with Amy Lannon and our HR director, we talked about how there could be significant synergies, I will say, significant maybe organic transfer of knowledge if this person sits closely with the Reading Coalition and prevention, and in some ways some of their work is very similar to the work of a DEI person. And Amy actually shared that in the conversations of creating this position, there was a lot of discussion of how there is a model that the coalition has created that works effectively in Reading, it's a model that could be mirrored with this position. I know a few concerns that have come up is you know how does it work with them being physically in the public safety building? You know, are folks going to be interested in coming to the building? And I would say that the office area was recently renovated, and it is beautiful. They've got a space that is big, and they've got a private office that they use and share for having private sessions. Tanya has successfully navigated the hurdle, and what she done. Tanya is our mental health clinician. What she does is she has office hours essentially in multiple buildings, including the senior center, including the library, including town hall, and I feel that her position has been extremely successful, and it creates a model for a good organization that is able to navigate tough issues, maybe taboo issues, and is successful in working town-wide. So we're still in the early process of this discussion, but of course it is something that we would love the select board's input on.
Okay, thanks, Fidel. Select board members? Chris?
Thanks, Jackie. So how would it work financially? Is it going to require town meeting approval to move it, or like how does the monetary portion weigh?
Yes, so the position is fully funded in this fiscal year. That fund happens to be in the library budget, right? So the most transparent way would be to go to town meeting and ask to relocate. You know, when we vote the budget, we voted on the spending scorecard, right? And essentially reallocate that item, right? From I think it's L91 to you know the town manager's line.
And then Sudeshna's explanation of where things should be housed and everything, for me, it didn't make sense to be in the library in the first place. And couple it with the fact, going back to the winter, when she made the comment that, you know, that she'd have to be invited for the schools or invited for the town to give input on the scenario that transpired back then. It just, for you to say that it's a town-wide kind of position, it didn't feel like that. And for that to be rectified now seems to make the most sense. So.
Mark?
Thanks, Jackie. So I think structurally it makes good sense to put it in the town manager's office or administrative office, I guess is where it would live. I think one of the things that I understood that was missing was the ability to interact pretty regularly with department heads in general. And so, you know, I think town hall has a big advantage in that, and just makes the opportunity water cooler oriented more so than anything else. And so I think that's the one area where I'm not comfortable that we're going to accomplish all of our goals as structured. So that's the one thing that I would encourage more discussion about first before finalizing that. I appreciate it's not like we have all sorts of offices and things to do, and I love the idea of office hours and moving things. My impression again is that people felt comfortable approaching, you know, the Sudeshna in this case, but that office, and I just want to make sure that we encourage that and keep it really positive and easy, and wouldn't want to put up roadblocks to it. so there's kind of the working with town department heads on a regular basis, which I think has big benefits. And then the other side is just making sure that there are comfortable spaces where people who are concerned are able to go and speak honestly, or as anonymously as possible.
Sure, thank you. So I know there've been a number of conversations and iterations of this proposed move, and I agree with Mark's comments about making sure there is broad access. And in your presentation, you referenced that as well. This really should be a townwide function. And so just to be clear, the reporting structure for this position you're proposing would be where?
Report it to me.
It is still going to report to you.
It doesn't now, but that is the proposed change.
And be located where?
In the space of the Reading Coalition.
Okay,
Space
so
of the
that's in
Reading
the police
Coalition.
station.
The police safety.
Okay, so that would definitely be helpful to understand a little bit more about how you envision. Certainly reporting directly to town manager does provide a lot of flexibility. It can provide a lot of interaction. I know regular groups of staff members, depending on the functionality, get together, conservation, DPW. I'm not sure I'm privy to all the kinds of staff meetings that you have for your department heads, but is that that's what you were thinking of, like when you have a department head meeting, this person would be there, right? Any kind of things like that?
Formally, yes, but also informally, more what used to be called the water cooler discussions. I don't know what they're called now.
So you're gonna have a little bit of a hard time having water cooler discussions if they're across the street when so many departments are here. Okay. It's a nice space, so I've heard. Looks
Yeah,
nice looking through the door.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, and I'm not opposed to having it be in town hall. It's just we don't have any space that I can think of.
Yeah, I'll say just Fidel arranged a tour for me a few weeks ago of RPD, and I saw the coalition space that is easily publicly accessible and separate from the rest of the public safety functions, very welcoming, and has some kind of confidential meeting space. So I think, to me, at least from a public facing standpoint, that helped me get comfortable with the idea of this position physically located at the public safety building, although I take your point, Mark, about the need for those kind of unplanned serendipitous connections that people have when they work under the same roof. And just a process question, when do we need to close the warrant by? Because
September 26th.
Okay. So that would be, is that currently, and I don't believe that was currently in our proposed warrant.
It doesn't go into the actual warrant.
Okay, got it. It's part of the budget. Okay. Okay, thank you. Yes.
Thanks, Jackie. Yeah, I'll echo what Jackie had mentioned. I did the same thing with the tour with Fidel. And they're already using it for private kind of matters, dealing with mental health and the unfortunate ramifications of that, and that being very personal in nature, you know what I mean, as compared to the library itself. Like, I understand where Sadeshna's office was, but the same thing with this. It's definitely, it's if I could have a space over there, is definitely a beautiful spot. So I'm comfortable with that destination in mind.
Yes, if you could please come up to the podium.
Thank you. I recognize this is unorthodox. Linda Snowdoxer, Beaver Road. I was actually online for the opening public comments, but I didn't realize the proposal was to move the office to the police station. I know you're calling it the safety office
but to the police station as opposed to town hall. And from my membership in the Mass Coalition of Human Rights and from my experience, there are invisible barriers to some people who might need to come to speak to our DEI person, our Office of Equity and Social Justice person, that exist by walking into the police station. And I just want to caution you that there are already barriers, and I agree, the coalition space is beautiful and it would be private once people get in, but passing a flag with the blue line on it, I don't know if it's still up, or going into the police station for many people of color, it will be a deterrent for them. And I recognize and I appreciate that you said the office hours could travel. It's a lot for people to keep track of where it's gonna be, when it's gonna be, when it's already difficult for people to stand up and go for help or to report an experience. And we just had a conversation at PAIR about the concerns about backlash. And going into a space, going through the doors into the space, that takes a lot of guts, a lot of courage, and in an already difficult, potentially difficult situation. And I love the idea. Lieutenant Silva is awesome, and that relationship, I really want to nurture it. But I think that with our new position, still new, going into its third year, that's a barrier that we'd be creating. And that barrier also, to Mr. Doxer's point, stands in between that director and the water cooler conversations, which I think are really important. So even if it could be considered if it were under the town manager, but as we originally, I was on the ad hoc committee, we originally chose the library as the director was supposed to be a town position located in the library. And the library was chosen because it was a safe space. The public goes there, anybody can go there and not feel necessarily that they're exposed. So I don't know if there's a way for that, and I respect Sudeshna's opinion and your discussions. I just caution you that there are invisible barriers to going into a police station, regardless of which police station it is. So, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It is a conversation that we've been having a lot, and I've had this conversation with Tanya in particular, with Erica and Crystal, of how do they navigate these things, right? I mean, their work is at times dealing with people who've had negative interactions with law enforcement, right? And how do they bridge that gap, right? And it's tough. It's absolutely tough. What they have shared is that they are not only able to get through it, but they're able to see the benefits, right? Like they're able to see the positives of being in an environment that is safe, right? That is in itself enclosed and protected, right? And Tanya has expressed her loving the new space, her going out of her way to make things welcome. I mean, I absolutely understand that being in one location is ideal. Obviously, I mean, we talk about this with the the senior center all the time, right? And how having multiple locations is frustrating. How having Jenna in this building, the senior center, but unfortunately, it is if I could add a third floor to this building or a fourth floor to this building, I would do it tomorrow. But it's in my opinion, is the best option that I can think of right now.
Can I ask a question? Is that all right? Yes. So has there been any consideration, I'm just thinking about the space and the need to enter into the lobby of the police station. And I've been in that beautiful space, and it is beautiful, and I'm a huge supporter of the coalition. Could there be another access point to that? I know it's octagonal or whatever that shape is, and it's brick. There isn't like an easy other way to have another access other than going through the police station lobby to get into there.
It is not possible to add another door to that building, no.
I didn't think so.
And if you walk in, there's like an alcove, if you will, right? And you're in the lobby for a reason, right? And you enter the space, it's separated for a reason. Yeah, I mean, I go there all the time, and I have conversations with Crystal. I mean, they started doing a lot more outreach, if you will, right? I mean, and I think that if I talk to Sudeshna or me, for example, right? Not many residents come visit me in my office, right? I go out and I have coffee with residents. I see them where they are, right? I think it is rare for someone to actually walk in and talk to me. So I would argue that this position is similar to that.
Can I ask another question? Yep. So I would suggest that perhaps that is a great interview question for your potential candidates, because I would hate for that to also be a deterrent for them taking the job if it's in a police station, that their perception of this decision would be important. And we might learn something, and they'll have all the information in making their decision and coming home to their office being in a police station.
Yeah, we have shared this with all of the applicants that we've interviewed.
And their response has been?
The response has been great. I mean, in many of these positions, in other places, there is a lot of overlap. The relationship with public safety is something that happens naturally. So yeah, so far no one said, nope, I'm not coming because of that.
Thank you, and thank you for breaking protocol.
Sure. Thank you. Come on that. Next item, big one, discuss the warrant for the November town meeting. So Fidel.
Thank you. Before I talk about the warrant, I wanted to share a presentation about trash barrels. I will move through it quickly because I think it is something that we have talked about repeatedly. But I just wanted to go through it. Let me see if I also on the screen. Just so I shared with the select board that we would like to bring the request for trash and recycle barrels to town meeting in November. This would be to this is Article 7 in the warrant, and it is to give each home one 64-gallon trash barrel and one 64 recycle barrel. The rollout would take place in the summer of 2014, and similar to what we explained last in November, homes can rent or lease one additional trash barrel for $200 per year, paid annually to Public Works, and additional recycle barrels are provided at no cost. We would also implement the program of overflow bags that could be purchased from retailers like Market Basket and Stop & Shop for $10 for a 5-bag roll. And maybe something that we heard a lot about in anticipation to April town meeting is will the town be issuing smaller barrels? Yes, the town will be issuing smaller barrels to anyone that has a need. So why are we having this conversation, right? I think everyone remembers what happened in October 2022. And if you follow social media and our local groups, this question comes up all the time. Let's cancel the contract, right? Let's cancel the contract. Let's look for another vendor. So we did that. We did that in October. It was an emergency basis. I spoke to 6 companies. We received 4 proposals. I did not put which company gave the proposal, just for purposes of not losing a relationship. But the 4 companies that provided are in their logos are there. On average, the average contract proposal was $2,171,000. Our current cost is $1,181,000. All 6 companies that I met with said manual collection is not an option. That they are not taking on new customers without automation. So I think at town meeting, I think a lot of members asked that. A lot of town meeting members asked that. What if we don't want to do this? I think if we don't want to do this, we're gonna have to, I don't know, drive it to the DPW garage. I'm not sure. We are going to be required to do automation. And is this only happening in Reading? No, it's not. It is a constant conversation that I have with other town managers, including Westford. So Westford just received a proposal. They were in a similar situation as Reading, where they have to go out to bid. They received bids from 2 companies, Republic Services and Waste Management, and both companies essentially said manual collection is not an option. So they were mandated to go to automation, and this is the low bidder was Waste Management. This is their numbers for Westford. As you can see, there is an increase of $580,000 in FY25 and $870,000 in FY26. Sorry, cumulative increase. And in speaking to the town manager in Westford, they are going through this process, but they have to do it in a very short amount of time. I've shared the story from Danvers that is going through this process right now. Just going back and reiterating what happened in town meeting in April, we asked for $900,000 for trash and recycle barrels. We received 93 votes in the affirmative, 62 in the negative. The article failed, 10 votes short. In my opinion, and I would love residents to reach out to me, come to my office. I will go to the public safety building. I will go to the library. I will go anywhere to speak about trash. Why do we need to do this now? What was asked, would we charge for an extra barrel? How much? And where will the money go? Will we provide smaller barrels? And we'll have a slide on other questions. So again, why are we going to do this now? We are going to be required to go to automation. There's no qualms in my stating that. In my opinion, doing it now is going to be cheaper than doing it 2 years from now. And doing it now is going to allow us some time to transition into this. What we are hearing from the market right now is that there's about a 6-month lead time from place of order for barrels. So doing it now will allow us some time for our DPW employees to do some outreach, to do some promotion stuff, mailers, you name it. And I think at the end, in town meeting, what we lost was that this is going to be an added service to the residents. I know that we got lost in maybe some of it, but the town doesn't provide town-issued trash barrels and recycle barrels. I feel that this is going to be an additional service that the majority of residents will appreciate. Will we charge for an extra barrel, right? And why? I guess I'll say what we all municipalities that are around us are charging for an extra barrel. The limiting to 1 barrel is not only the issue of the actual purchase of the barrel. It is controlling the amount of trash that is going out into the land, into our waste stream. And it's not in terms of controlling, but how much from an environmental standpoint, but controlling the cost. So the list on this slide shows what other communities charge. We in April town meeting, we said that ours would range from $150 to $200. I pinned it at the high end because for one, we're not rolling this out for another year, most likely, and the impact is not going to be felt until 2 years from now. The last thing that I want is to set a low rate and have to increase it in a year. And again, this fee is to cover the additional solid waste transportation and disposal costs. It is not to charge, it's not to pay for a barrel. It is not to pay for the maintenance of a barrel. A trash barrel is a tool in our solid waste program. So what are we going to do with this revenue? Why are we charging more, right? I said in the beginning that there's going to be potentially up to $1 million in extra cost. Absorbing that in our municipal budget would be disastrous, right? And it would it's not sustainable to fund from free cash, certainly, and it would make some really tough conversations in terms of how do we balance a budget with an additional $1 million in expense. So what we are proposing is any additional revenue from the trash barrels and the overflow bags will go into a solid waste revolving fund. And what town council did is she looked at other communities that have a solid waste revolving fund, and there are many, including Burlington and Belmont, as our neighbors that implement this. And essentially, we would receive that revenue. It would go into a solid waste revolving fund, and it would be used to offset future solid waste costs. And appropriations obviously would be done as part of the budget process. And like we do with our other revolving funds, it would be annually approved in that little chart at April town meetings, and we would report how much is in that fund at every town meeting. I see it as a rainy day fund, right? Which I hope that everyone in town agrees that it is a good thing to do. So will we provide smaller barrels? Yes, we will. We will provide smaller barrels. We will provide it on a case-by-case basis, simply to streamline the process. It'd be easier for us to roll out one size barrel and deal with the anomalies, if you will. Based on the survey that we did, we estimate it's about 100 to 200 homes out of 9,000. So we don't think that it is going to be a very large number. And residents will also be able to purchase overflow bags at Market Basket, which is shown on the left. And it is a common practice. The other questions, right? So following town meeting, I heard some comments about, this is going to be used to track my trash, and I purposely called the barrel manufacturers, and I called the trash companies, and I asked them, are you tracking anyone's trash? And no one in the state of Massachusetts is tracking anyone's trash, specifically with the barrel. Furthermore, they explained that if we wanted to track the trash by trash barrels, the trash trucks would have to be outfitted with RFID readers. Not only would that be a significant expense, but it would be a significant expense to maintain the data from it and maintain the hardware. RFID scanners do exist. The chips that are in the barrel are UF, so they're ultra frequency, I believe it's called, and they have a short reading range. So essentially, the trash barrel would have to be outfitted with a reader that would need to have database attaching that barrel to the reader to the home. I'm over-explaining this because no one is doing it, and everyone that I spoke to the largest manufacturers of of the trash barrels that are Mass DEP approved, and I spoke to the 6 companies that I mentioned. No one is tracking barrels with using the RFID chips that are in the barrel. What if the town doesn't want to go automated? Again, I don't think we'll have a choice. In my opinion, all communities will be automated. You know, I spoke to Jane. She lives in Methuen. Methuen is much more urban than Reading. They went automated. Lawrence went automated. Wakefield went automated. Towns and cities that are more urban, Lynn is automated. Places that are more urban than Reading have gone automated. Communities like Reading will be told to go automated. Is the town making money on this? No. This will not cover any new costs. Sorry, this will not cover any of our existing costs. We have our trash contract fully funded within our budget right now. We do not have a deficit. This is to offset future costs that we know are going to be had. And then we heard the question, why can't I just go to Home Depot and buy a barrel? The barrel is a tool for managing our solid waste program. You know, we do a lot of outreach. We do a lot of outreach for surveys. We do a lot of outreach for programs, and even with even the best resulting surveys has a low impact rate in terms of returns. So even if we said even if we want to go down this route, there is no way that we would be able to do 100% guarantee that each home would get the right barrel. So we would undoubtedly be chasing, you know, 20 to 25% of homes that just didn't get the mailer or didn't get didn't attend the meeting, and it would create a significant barrier to a rollout. Because undoubtedly, if Chris Haley buys the wrong barrel at Home Depot, Chris Haley's going to be very upset if he bought the wrong barrel. I know I would be. And would probably request the town refund that barrel. In my opinion, this is what has been what is happening in most communities. It is town issued with the town logo. It is strictly, very clearly marked as being purchased by the town. Danvers just went through this, and a member from the finance committee essentially made a motion to do this. So basically said the town will not buy it. All residents have to buy it. Have to buy this barrel from this vendor, and it went to town meeting in Danvers, and it failed. Mostly because Danvers explained just how complicated that rollout would be. Other questions that I've heard is what do we do with our current barrel? Chris Cole in April shared that we will have drop off points at the garage, but I will go further and we will have designated, like Christmas trees, right? Like leaf pickup. We will have designated times when someone can put out their trash barrel, and the town will pick it up. Yeah. So next step, we're presenting this presentation, save the presentation to the finance committee. We will continue talking with the select board. We are planning to host a public forum in September on this presentation, and we are holding a lunch and learn at the senior center hosted by Chris on October 4th, and we'll be bringing trash barrels to the next beer garden. Buy a beer, look at a trash barrel. And I welcome any other steps. The Reading Post is doing an article on this matter, and the Daily Times Chronicle has as well. That is that. I don't know if you have any questions on this matter.
Chris.
Thanks, Jackie. I guess doing I didn't get a vote back then, but I would have voted yes to have gone to the automated barrels, in case anyone was wondering. But I just have a hard time with, are the replacement barrels going to be recyclable So I have 3 at my house. If you take an average, I would say 3 is probably the average, meaning 2 trash, 1 recycle. That's 27,000 barrels that the town would have to get. Are they recyclable, or are we just destroying 27,000 barrels?
So we are planning to get 14,000 barrels. I forget the count, but it's essentially
Because you're going with 2.
We're going with 2, one trash, 1 recycling. The $900,000 includes a buffer, right? And undoubtedly we'll need to buy, some of the small ones. So is the number going to be closer to 20 potentially? So trash barrels are made out of plastic. We would recycle those like we do any other plastic. They are recyclable.
Because they seem like they're a resin-ish kind of material, if I had to guess. It's more of, I'm gonna hate getting rid of 3 barrels and only to have you drop off the identical barrels at my house. It just doesn't sit with me. It's a waste. So I understand that Chris Haley doesn't wanna buy the wrong barrels, etc. I understand that. But it's the ones with the bars in the front, like, it's pretty self-explanatory that they just don't have random circle barrels, aren't gonna work, you know what I mean? I just have a hard time with the waste that's gonna actually be involved in the waste. And me just getting rid of something that's perfectly fine, but you're just gonna give me the same one. We're gonna look like idiots, like, it's, whoa.
I visited a home from a resident who had probably about 5 barrels, and you could see their generation, right? One of them was round and it had the little bump out. I mean, this resident had been collecting trash barrels probably since the 80s, right? I mean, I completely agree and appreciate that some residents will probably have some old trash barrels that we have to dispose of. Again, this is. We're doing this, and I'm sorry to say this. Yourself shared that your barrels are probably 10 years old at this point.
Yeah, they came from Causeway Road, so,
Right.
but they're those barrels.
So you will get brand new barrels that are going to last you at least 15 years.
But just a barrel. It's not a Mustang like Mark. So I guess I know you had mentioned Belmont. Typically, I don't care about other places doing this kind of stuff, but if you can find out how much Belmont has in their fund after a year, like, do they have $3 million that they're banking from all the residents getting extra stuff, or, is it like 50 grand and it's pointless, like, in the grand scheme of things? So if you can check with them. And then the other concern that we heard was eventually it's gonna go pay per throw based off weight, et cetera. So nobody else is doing that. And how long is the contract? Is it 5 or 10 years that we would get?
We haven't gotten that far yet. All of the vendors that I talked to would not sign a 10-year contract. All of the vendors that I talked to, those 6 vendors, said 5 years. And typically, pay as you throw is a term that is used in the trash world, but it is normally used with bags, right? So it is not usually attached with and the first community that went to it was Malden, and essentially they said, we're not picking up barrels at all. It is a bag, and you have to buy the bag, and that's why it was called pay as you throw, because they will only they would only issue bags, right? They would only issue bags. They would only pick up the bags that were town stamped and town issued. So in order to throw, you have to pay. So I do not know of any trash company. I don't want to say America, but at least in the state of Massachusetts, that is weighing trash barrels, right? If you imagine a trash barrel goes on the road, right, and if you've seen the JRM trucks, they're not, it's a trash barrel. It's gonna run with a lot of rust on it. In order to have a calibrated arm that is able to weigh that barrel, right, and is able to identify that barrel to that person, right? It is just not technology that I at least have heard that it exists in Massachusetts. And again, I called I call the trash companies that I talk to, and also the barrel manufacturers.
So it seems like a lot of questions from last time you've answered, so
I will try to.
we shall see.
So 4 points. One, I think, and I shared this with you, I don't think this is about barrels. It's about the trash plan for the town going forward and how, pardon the pun, to not get held over a barrel by any contractors. If we do this, we're in a position, as you said, to negotiate, to do what we need to do. If we don't do it, we will at some point run into either trouble or end of contract and be forced to do things fast, which means more money for no advantage. This is about how we're gonna handle trash going forward. I feel very strongly. Second, the cost of the additional barrels is, as you said, it offsets real costs, right? There's more tonnage as a result of more barrels. There are costs. So it shouldn't generate much of a surplus because there's revenue and there's cost associated. But if it does generate a surplus, that means that the overall costs of the town end up going down. A bonus. One thing that I think you had before that you lost was why new barrels, and these barrels will reduce tonnage by themselves by holding out water, by being covered and sealed versus many folks who don't cover and seal barrels or lose their covers or whatever goes on. And last piece is just following up on Ann Mark from earlier today. Why not support stronger composting efforts to help reduce solid waste further? I think that figuring out what the number was
455.
Thank you. 455 households. You could probably figure out what that tonnage reduction is just with that, and what would happen if the number was 500, then 1,000, and then 2,000, or even 9,000.
We should probably go into some details about that. My struggle with pursuing that further is that it is additional costs, right? So in the scenario of we think costs are going up, do we really want to take on additional costs that we currently don't have?
I don't know that you need to fully fund it for everybody. But what if it was between some form of contribution beyond right now, which is a barrel and bags?
Mm-hmm.
Second is that if the numbers go up, the costs continue to go down for all residents. And maybe there's a point at which there's a contribution that encourages more households to participate, and that helps everybody, rather than a mandate or a full payment. I agree. If we add $200 in cost per household per year, that's equal to our trash contract. And we're gonna do that.
Yeah, what we shared in April was this, which essentially
111 tons. So what's the cost per ton right now?
It's about $93. So we do about 7,000 tons. 7,000 as a town, right?
Of trash.
Of trash. Right, so it's not to say that it's not impactful. It's just, it's not going to solve.
Right, it doesn't solve it. It just encourages behavior. It's another piece. So now we've taken the rain out of what's going into the trucks. That should be a big reduction in tonnage, right? If we can take some of the food waste out, that's a much more modest piece, but it's a piece.
Yeah,
Just as a thought, as part of the overall program, I agree. Funding it in full, I don't see how that computes at this point. But
I was under the impression that Black Earth couldn't handle if we said, let's sign up 9,000 residents. I was under the impression that we couldn't do it.
I think they have competition. I think that there are at least one other player doing it, and
I guess I would like to have the answer. I
Yeah.
would like to have that's the assumption I've been under this whole time. So if they can do it, then there's a conversation to be had. If they say they can't, then it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean,
So
a few cities and towns have gone to 100% composting, right? Somerville, Cambridge. So it is possible. I'm sure if you pay for it, they'll come. When we met with Black Earth, they suggested not doing that, not offering it to every home, because there are homes that won't do it. But instead, they suggested the Watertown model, which is providing a certain number for free. So it is whether that's 500, whether that's 1,000 for free, and you know, out of 9,000 homes, 1,000 for free, you know, doing that. But again, I mean, in the spreadsheet that in the slide that I just showed, you know, if the monthly plan, right, is $14 per home, right? If we're giving 1,000, we're giving this to 1,000 families for free, right? It's significant cost.
But the cost will go down a fair amount, right? If you go to 1,000 versus 500, it probably drops a couple bucks a month, and if you go to 2,000, probably another couple bucks at some point.
And then it can be every other week that's mentioned too.
Yeah.
Like, that's would torpedo the cost, at least.
Okay. This is an excellent presentation. Thank you, Fidel. It is very clear that we are going to have to change rubbish and solid waste collections. And I'm also concerned about hearing about recycling, since recycling is now something that collection is also something we pay for. We're starting to hear the industry push back, and towns are starting to go to bi-weekly recycling, so there's that coming. So there's a lot of disappointing things happening, and our trash needs to be reduced. So this is I'm good with this. This is a great presentation. I think it makes the strong case to town meeting that we're gonna need to invest in this, and it will save us money. And otherwise, and it could potentially cause us to avoid not having trash service. So I think that needs to be extremely clear to town meeting, that voting this down may wind up not only doubling, tripling our costs, but may result in us needing to open a town dump again. So I don't think town meeting is foolish. I think generally they'll be thoughtful and they understand that. And I'd like to echo Mark's call for having curbside composting being part of our town-wide trash and recycling strategy. I use the bi-weekly pickup, and it's more than enough for a household of 3. And Black Earth knows exactly how many tons have been kept out of the landfill, which is kind of interesting depending on how it be implemented. You can get the list of the folks that sign up that aren't using it and kick them off the list. So, I mean, that it's kind of interesting, the data they're collecting. But I also shared with Fidel, and anybody can look this up, that Lexington has gone ahead and negotiated a 2,000 household limit that they are rolling out. I do believe they have budgeted for it, and it might be free to start, but I think we could be open to compromise this to not bust the budget, and I do like the idea of still gonna get pushback from people that need that second barrel, don't wanna pay for it, but it is what it is. But taking some of that tonnage out of there is gonna be a good thing in the long run. And so that's and to Ann's point and the town composters, we've supported this so far, and there is strong demand, but unless we make it a part of our actual recycling and rubbish and waste hauling strategy, we're not gonna get to the point where we can be meaningful about it. So excellent presentation, I really appreciate this. All of the surveying, understand the landscape. I think it's really clear that anybody who goes through this is that these are the choices we have before us.
Yeah, and I just would add, I think this is a great presentation. I think it's a representation of how we as a town need to respond to market realities. No one's gonna host a parade about this decision, but I think it also is one that is posed in the appropriate way for town meeting to reconsider with this funding source and given the reality of the marketplace and what the vendors are and are not willing to do. I think it'd be interesting to hear a little more about how to include composting on a broader scale, although I do have some concerns about the political and the practicability of actually getting that passed initially, but I do think it's a good goal to work towards, so thank you for the slides. Yes?
Thanks, Jackie. I guess it dovetails back to me asking how much Belmont has raised. I guess the fund could end up, the trash fund that you would be setting up could end up funding the composting fund that we would need for the shortfall of the money that we don't have. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems that's why you gotta find out what the average is, what Belmont or someone else was doing. And if we can find a way to do 1,000, 2,000, because what we're doing is we're investing the money back in, but we're also keeping the waste out of the landfills, which is reducing our tonnage, which is reducing the so it's not that we're just giving people, you know, whatever, and I understand the political thing that Jackie mentioned, but it's a circle where we're getting rid of the tonnage, which is saving us money. To me, it makes sense, so I don't know if we can legally do it, whatever you wanna do, but just see what they're doing.
Very good, thank you. I just had some hopefully quick hitters of town meeting, but before we go, or we get into the agenda. So I heard from the select board that there was some appetite, I'll say, to request additional money for paving in November town meeting. So we circled the wagons with DPW and said, what could you do with an extra $500,000? So as you know, we have a paving plan. These are the next streets to be paved. So it's Arrow Circle, Johanna Drive, and Dana Road. It is approximately 3,208 feet worth of paving. If the board would like, we can proceed to town meeting and request $500,000 in paving in November town meeting. I think I would appreciate some feedback on that.
Yeah, go.
So, I remember, maybe it's a few past town meetings, that there's a constant measure of road conditions.
PCI.
Okay?
Yep.
And everybody's graded, all the roads are graded, and we had, I thought, kind of come to a better level than we felt was, you know, kind of, this is okay, and we were doing better than okay. My concern is doing a one-time shot, does that, so for the 3 roads, it's wonderful, but does it really kind of making any meaningful impact? And it's not something that we can kind of do every year.
So the DPW has been asking for additional paving money for a long time. We have done that. Like Lowell Street, for example, was funded through one additional, you know, shot, right? There's in the capital plan, there's $500,000 that are put towards it every year, right? In FY 23, we added an extra shot for Lowell Street, $600,000. In FY 25, there is another $600,000 shot in it already that is going to finish Lowell Street all the way to North Reading. It is a strategy that has been used before.
Agreed, and I think we could continue to do it. But the money comes
Sustainable
from somewhere.
$1 million would be better, for sure, absolutely.
Yeah, and you know, yes, it'd be wonderful to take it up, but I think what's the level that we're at? What's the level that we want to be at? And you know, what impact does this have? And is it something that we want to kind of keep doing? We get Chapter 90 funds, right?
We do. We continue to
that's wonderful, and that's been increasing.
It's been steady. $596,000 about.
Okay, so it's staying there. So I guess the question is, what are our needs? What happens if you do this? I'm sure there's a number that says, well, this is 500, but if you gave us 750, this is what we could do, versus 250. I'm just trying to figure out where's the balance. I think that if we decide we need to spend more money every year, that's a new cost. out of the budget. So what are we gonna chop?
Yeah, and that is a conversation that we have every year when we're doing the capital plan, right? Because it is funded out of that capital line of committed cost. So it is a conversation that we have, and in FY25, again, we have the $600,000 shot for Lowell Street.
Yeah, I'm very cognizant that the community is gonna be looking at potentially two big projects to consider, and to just watch what we're doing here. That said, we're in a pretty good free cash spot. We're in a really good free cash spot. So capital improvement kinds of things possibly are the right things to do. But we can't do everything. I see something about Birch Meadow Phase 2 as Article 6. I just wanna make sure that that there's a real scorecard here.
Yeah, no,
What the impact is.
I agree. I mean, I think the temperature of the board would be helpful in terms of moving forward with this request or not. So at your next meeting, we'll get more information about PCI score and the impact of this.
Yeah, Karen, thank you. I just wanted to ask, are we fully funded for the downtown areas to have those repaved and restored?
Yes, we are fully funded. We're giving it a little break with regards to construction impacts, but we've temp paved and trench paved pretty much everything at this point, and we are going to reassess what's going to be paved. But we do have funds remaining. We're hopeful to hear sometime this fall about MassWorks for Haven Street, which we'll have a conversation about whether it makes sense to pave Haven Street if we're going to rip it out. Yes, we do have funds for that.
Because that would be a consideration as well, if we were gonna allocate more funds in terms of the paving plan, that may make sense, but making sure that the downtown's pretty torn out and
Yeah.
it would be nice to restore it.
Yep.
So I wanna make sure that's funded.
That is fun. There is a fun.
Chris?
Thanks, Jackie. Is there a list online where residents can actually look and see where their streets fall on the plan? Because that would alleviate lots of emails when I was secretary and dealing with all that. As you know, we went out to various streets and everything where people had concerns. If there was a list online that people can just go to, and so if DPW or whatever knows Tennyson Road is, in the budget for 2030 or something, then Tennyson Road people would know that, that's where it is. And unless there's the injection of cash that leapfrogs other projects up because of it, which then bumps everyone else behind them, I think it would just be helpful to have a list somewhere on the DPW or on the town site.
Agreed.
I do think something does exist. It certainly shows you what's gonna be paved in the current year.
In the current year, yes, and it's on
But
our
I think
website.
of more,
The future.
yeah. So someone can see that, all right, my road's getting paved next year, I'll kind of wait it out, so.
I've had success just calling DPW and asking. It's not the same as putting it on a website, but any resident can get that information by calling DPW and asking.
And Fidel, question, the Dana Rood, Johanna, are those based on a PCI score?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with Mark that it would be helpful to get some more context into how this relates to the existing allocations and with Chris to the future plans, so we can, decide about the inclusion of this on the warrant.
And just in general, I mean, our roads have increased a little bit in the over 20 years that I've been involved in municipal government, but our budgets have increased a whole lot more. Costs have gone up. Is there some sort of metric that communities use for increasing their road paving budgets that might be a helpful guideline? Or typically are communities near us spending
what percentage are they spending? That would be an interesting benchmark as well. There's always room for more paving for sure, and it definitely has been come up at town meeting time after time after time. And I know we can't possibly get to all of that, but I would wanna make sure that we are not falling behind as our budgets get bigger. You know, just to make sure that there's a reasonable amount being spent.
Two more quick hitters, hopefully. I will be presenting this at town meeting, but we went out to bid for Grove Street parking lot. This would be a request from free cash. This is the list of bidders. We received 5. The low bidder was KNR Construction. We're going through the due diligence process, but it would be $169,000 for lot 5.
Yes.
So just to add to that, sort of for everybody's recollection, and obviously for town meetings, we received a state earmark to pay for this to the tune of about $150,000. The earmark had to be utilized in the year that it was given to us, which we couldn't do, which means the bulk of that, we should get the exact number, but the bulk of the 150 went back into free cash and is in free cash. So, you know, any of these numbers, in my opinion, I'm looking at it as we received an earmark for 150 to do the job is 169, 250 plus contingency. So then, you know, we're asking for town meeting basically say, okay, now it's time to take the funds out and timing yada yada the project, we're gonna need an extra 50K, whatever the number is. And then that allows us to move ahead. And if you remember last meeting, I think, last meeting we had the road that parking is being restricted on that's down there as well. Forget its name, or whatever.
Something circle.
Family Circle.
Thank you, Family Circle.
Yeah.
So the issue of having additional safe parking is really kind of front and center. And this delivers on that. And soon, as soon as town meeting approves.
And then finally, the last update was on the email that I sent to the board this morning. We purchased a ladder truck. We purchased a ladder truck in February of 2022. We received an earmark of $50,000 for said ladder truck. It was ordered in March. They told us that it was going to be a lead time of about 800 days. The vendor has reached out to us, and they essentially have told us that there is a $125,000 material cost increase. So MCI, material cost increase, and they sent our fire chief a long explanation detailing increase in materials, increase in lead times, increase in global supply chain issues, and essentially saying that making the legal argument that this was unforeseen increases that they could not have foreseen when they signed the contract. Town council is reviewing it, and we are having a call with the CEO of Seagraves, which is the manufacturer, to see if we can work something out. Unfortunately, this was funded in FY22 capital plan. The truck is from 2008, so it's a 15-year-old ladder truck. You know, it's given us its time, and we started from scratch. You know, and waiting for another 2 years or more, in the hopes that it goes lower, is not a wise decision in my opinion. So we are going to try to see what we can get in terms of bringing that number down. We're getting some concessions, but it was a $125,000 increase. One conversation that I had with the fire chief is that if you recall, we have a 40R incentive bonus account that has roughly about $500,000 in it. You know, I could make the connection that the ladder truck is gonna be impact or be used in the 40R district, and it is not free cash. So I am hoping that we can navigate those waters, and whatever the increase is, it is funded by the 40R incentive account, stabilization account, which the only restriction is that it has to be used for capital, and certainly this is one of them.
Yes.
So the plan would be to negotiate the best possible arrangement and bring that forward to town meeting?
Yes. And my recommendation would be if FinCom and the select board agree to propose that we fund that from the 40R district incentive bonus.
Yes, Chris.
Thanks, Jackie. So did we already give the manufacturer the full amount of the money?
No.
Did we, is the clause that they're attempting to use within the contract?
They say it is.
But I mean, I'm not some contract czar, but I know that from my time watching Judge Judy, if it isn't in the four corners of the contract, you are out of luck. So if they're attempting to skip out on something that isn't in the four corners of the contract, I don't know why we would be allowing them to do so. That doesn't sit well with me at all. You agree to a price. I understand unforeseen circumstances, but it is what it is. You gave us this, and they should honor it.
I am not a lawyer. Town council is reviewing this. You know what the letter that the vendor sent to us essentially said that, you know, it is these kind of increases were unforeseen, and our fire chief has mentioned that Stoneham was going through a similar issue, as well as Worcester and a few other communities with the same vendor. Lowell chose to actually cancel the contract with them. I don't know what the vehicle was.
But identical contracts, they all signed the same one that Reading had signed, because yeah, because to me, if they're trying to use something that's not included in it, then that just doesn't sit well with me at all.
It does not sit well with me either. I can tell you that.
So if
We can
IBRIA
screen that one
determines
out.
that it's in there, then it's in there, and it is what it is. But if it ain't, I wouldn't be supportive of just that kind of, I understand that it's being used from a fund that doesn't get used for other things, but we're on the hook for $120,000 that we shouldn't be on the hook for.
Completely agree.
This stuff happens all the time with other various executive session related items, and I don't, it doesn't sit well.
I agree. We are very frustrated.
Quick clarification, it's Worcester.
Worcester, right?
No, Worcester.
Worcester.
W-I-S-T-E-R, Worcester.
You little R on the end there? Come on.
It's true.
Worcester.
I have too many R's.
And I will run very quickly. I know I took up a lot of time on the remainder of the warrant. So we will have Article 3, which is the capital improvement plan, amending the capital improvement plan. Article 4 is amends to the FY24 budget. Article 5 is approved payment of prior year's bills. We have not received any yet. And Article 6 is the article that Mr. Doxer alluded to. So as you know, we applied for a $500,000 grant from the state as part of the PARC grant, PARC grant. We were invited to do a tour of the grant, and the grant administrator came out and met us at the grant. At the location, and just to remind folks, this would be to replace the playground at Birch Meadow, the basketball court. It would be to replace the basketball court and to replace the pickleball court that is next to the basketball court and make it a a double basketball court. I shared with the board that we received a $20,000 donation from an abutter that happens to live on Lafayette Avenue, I think, Lafayette Avenue in Reading. He shared that he did not want to be, publicly recognized, but if the board has any questions about any more details on it, please let me know. The grant, if received, requires us to do three things. One is to fully authorize the project. This was already in the FY25 capital plan, so it would have gone to town meeting anyways. It is to dedicate the land for park purposes. So essentially, we can't do anything in this property other than a park. I don't think that will ever happen. And we need to transfer the parcels to the select board. So the parcels as they stand right now are made up of three different parcels. We got to combine them, and one slice of the parcel has to go transfer from the school committee to the select board. That is the three actions needed. Number 7 is Article 7 is what we talked about, which is the solid waste revolving fund and approving funding from free cash for the barrels. Number 8 is what I discussed just now about the ladder truck from the 40R Smart Growth Stabilization account. Number 9 is funding construction of the parking lot. Number 10 is one that will be hopefully presented by the bylaw committee, which is a new bylaw, snow removal in the 40R district. They are working through that. They are working through those details. But my understanding is that they feel like they will be ready for November town meeting. 11 is acceptance of a local option, Chapter 41, Section 19K, which gives up to $1,000 incentive for town clerks that are certified Massachusetts municipal clerk. It is a local option that has to be adopted by town meeting. Article 12 is accepting a local option, again, Chapter 32B, Section 9D. What happens today is that the surviving spouse of an employee or retiree, I think that's right, has the option to get health insurance benefits, but by law, this section has to be adopted in order for us to be able to do that legally.
Funding it or allowing it?
Allowing it. And maybe I'll ask Sean for more details. So essentially, the surviving spouse can continue to stay on the plan with the plan benefits after the employee dies, retiring.
Yes. So is this something we have been doing?
Yes, it is something.
I mean, it doesn't happen in the private sector. I've never heard of this benefit.
Yeah, so it is a local option that is allowed by Massachusetts law. So and it is that section, but it has to be formally adopted.
So are you hesitating because you said we need to do it legally?
No, in order to offer this benefit, this law has to be adopted.
In order to offer this benefit legally, this law has to be adopted. So is this gonna? I asked the question. Do you guys think I got an answer?
We've been doing it not according to the way that we're supposed to for the last.
That's a nice way to word it.
Without adopting relevant.
I can look into that.
Has anybody utilized this?
Yeah, I'll check with Sean on that.
Okay, because this has budget impacts, right?
Not
If it's a
not
new-
additional budget impacts.
Because it's already been taking place without us.
Well, that's what I'm just trying to get a straight answer. Okay. Yeah, is this commonly adopted and used by municipalities? Is it
Yes.
very common? It seems
Very
like a pretty great recruiting tool.
Very common. I mean, it is a local option. So it is Mass General law. It is legal. town council, has shared that many communities adopt.
But if it's allowing it versus funding it, those are two different things. Right? If, in other words, if the surviving spouse is allowed to buy in, that's no budget impact. No big budget impact. But if it's actually requesting the town pay for it, or pay a piece of it, that's a different question.
Yeah, with all employees, the town pays a portion and the employee person pays a portion.
25% still.
For the retiree.
29, 31. For retirees, for employees, there's a split. When an employee passes away, the spouse has the option of remaining in the plan. The question is how much of the split is paid.
Right. And this would be none of the split is paid, or is it requesting that some of the split is paid?
This is requesting that the same split be paid, remains paid after the employee passes away. So the split remains.
So if the retiree has 29% and we cover 71, then their widower is entitled to that same 29%. They pay in 29%, we pay in 71.
Absolutely, yes, as long as we adopt this law.
So I'm wondering if Sharon could weigh in on kind of the actuarial impact of this, because I imagine that changes reform.
And this is in perpetuity. It continues for as long as that person elects to continue doing it.
More info needed.
That's it, 12 articles.
Could I ask you a question about, the chairman asked a question, just to be clear, the snow stuff, were you gonna have the bylaws present that to us, cause that's like spaghetti. That's a challenging one to understand and understand the ramifications of that, because I don't remember off the top of my head the full extent of the Smart Growth District, but it's downtown somewhere and we plow downtown sidewalks to about an inch. So there'll be lots of questions from anybody living down there. And people aren't clear they're actually getting plowing service now. So it almost sounds like we're getting rid of, I just wanna understand, are we removing services that they've been used to? Was this bylaw gonna say you need to go the extra step, we can only get down to the last inch, you need to go out there and be responsible? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Sure.
Part of this must be Haven Street, right, because the genesis of this was some of the postmark residents? Is this the same request we have town
This
meeting?
is Mary Parr. Yep, she
Okay, so
the
that,
instructional motion was passed and she has been working with the bylaw committee.
so this is ostensibly, this is an area of downtown where DPW provides plowing service. Sidewalk plowing service. Alright, this one was just a little complicated, and then all of the moving of the parcels, that's the one you said is related to the grant or required by the grant. Okay, thank you.
Chris?
Thanks, Jackie. I wasn't gonna bring up the bylaw thing, but since Karen hadn't mentioned it, I would just be cognizant that you mentioned it will be done by November town meeting. They're currently working on it. But notifying the abutters and all the stuff has not happened, nor will it probably happen, which does not sit well with me at all in the first place, as me being one of the abutters, not getting a notification.
Yeah, I will relay this to the bylaw committee. So the bylaw committee has been working on this bylaw with some support from town council and Matt. I hesitate to say that this is not necessarily led by me or our staff. This is led by the bylaw committee. But I will share I will share those concerns with the bylaw committee.
I see there's an,
Yes.
I see there's an enforcement section, but yeah, Chris is right, there would be, normally we would have we would broadcast to folks, give them a heads up. Yep. But that's not necessarily something you put in the bylaw because it's a one-time thing. So, but
Yeah,
it's a
no,
good
I'm-
discussion point.
The outreach is my concern. I know
Yep.
about it because I'm here.
Yep.
99% of the other ones have no clue it's coming.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And next item, so review request for qualifications, RFQ for senior center feasibility study. So I'm not sure if Mark or Fidel wants to take this
So,
one.
maybe I could start and fill in from there. So, we've been working, Fidel and staff have been working on this. I've provided some input a couple of times, I think, in the process, to, this board authorized getting the RFQ out there and left it to the town staff to work on it. I think it's in pretty good shape. I think that, Fidel had in particular shared a number of specific comments. I have also through the Council on Aging, for some really, some overall issues that I think make great sense. For example, making clear that as we talk about an active living center, that means either a senior center or a community center with designated space for age 60 plus. And so, this isn't the latest version that we have here, right, Fidel?
No, it is not.
Right. So I think, that I think is spot on in terms of making sure that vendors would be clear about our expectation and making clear to the community that that's what we're talking about. That is exactly what ReCal stated, and I think that's appropriate here. I think that we've gone through a number of discussions. There is, ReCalc is working on some things, but I think the point of hiring the right design firm here, design services firm, is that they're gonna bring some expertise that we don't have. Expertise in working with a variety of different communities, specifically on these kinds of projects. And we encourage, I think, that input. I think we need that. I take the point that we wanna go as quickly as we can, that we don't wanna have overlap, that we don't wanna redo things that we've already done. I think that we've tried to make those fairly clear in terms of what's going on. The focus on programming and services, for example. ReCalc is working on trying to get younger seniors into the 60-year-olds, trying to understand what other communities do that's successful. Again, I think that the firms that respond hopefully have expertise with this that they can help with. The timing of 8 months is troubling to me too. And the hope would be that we could do it much faster than that in figuring out what that means. I think that there may not be a plethora of opportunities and spaces that are being looked at. I think it's gonna come down to less than a handful very quickly. And I would hope that they can go faster than that, but I also don't wanna set expectations too far ahead. Anything to talk about?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think it's been great getting lots of different input from people. I think that, one of the challenges we talked about was how do we pick a designer? And there's a section in here specific to that, trying to figure out, okay, what would be the right approach? Who should the members be? What's going on? Depending on which locations they choose, some of them I think are more senior center only, and some of them I think could allow for, or would make sense more as a broader community center with designated space for the age 60 plus community, which means that the stakeholders may be a little bit different. And I think the stakeholders were selected to reflect that, with the clear understanding that this is focused on the age 60 plus community. So the latest version, which actually isn't here, I think covers that well. A lot of things in here, you'll see discussions of senior center or community center, and I think it's cleaned up by saying active living center, and the active living center is defined right in the beginning. Senior center and or community center with designated space for age 60 plus. I think everybody received the letter today from Council on Aging, so you can see where their concerns lie. There's a Chris in the background. I don't know. I'm putting you in the hot seat, Chris. I'm gonna go like this. Anything you want?
No, I'm good, actually. I do support, with Council on Aging.
Commissioners to stand.
I do support what the Council on Aging is saying. I do like the wording, senior center and or community center with dedicated senior space. I think that is, really important. And it's a fear of, I think, a lot of the seniors, older adults, I don't want to say seniors, but I like to use older adults, in town. So I do like that wording. You know, they want to make sure they have space, and I want to make sure, and I think it's important to honor that and value that. So I do like that wording. Thank you.
Yeah, I was a little bit put back. I was a little horrified by the 8-month time frame. So okay, that's a really long time. So hopefully it wouldn't take that long. But I did speak to the chair of the Council on Aging today, and I am fully supportive of the wording that you folks have already alluded to. I think that would be a good change. Excited that we're getting to this point. Get this started.
One thing maybe add that we did reach out to the consultant that addressed kind of one of the public forums a while ago. So we had some specific questions to see, did these things make sense? And I think he reinforced a couple of the terms that we were using to make sure it was clear, the notion of making sure that the design we're expecting and requiring, I don't want to use the wrong words, but it's accessible at a different level. It's not just kind of an ADA definition. I think it's universal design, maybe one of the terms. But I think that's incorporated clearly. So we asked for a little bit of feedback from them just to make sure that we were asking for reasonable things, we were describing them properly, and that we should expect to get a number of bids, not one.
Thank you. So
Jackie?
yes.
This is Nancy Zimlack. Could I just make a comment?
Yes.
Thank you. I think it's really important for the select board and the town to understand that a senior center alone is going to be a minimum of about 15,000 square feet. So then if we're adding a community center to it, it's going to be most likely at an additional cost. And I think that's one of the things that the Council on Aging is concerned about. And we understand that the space can be used in at different times of the day. But one of the big complaints right now is that the senior center does not offer evening hours, and that the accommodations don't necessarily support some of the activities that are being offered. And I just, as we talk about broadening the scope, and that's really what this is, it's broadening the scope. That's a real concern of the Council on Aging. So that's it.
Yes.
So very well understood. And some of the potential locations, some of the potential opportunities could involve a much larger facility. So for example, if something happens at Simon's Way, it's less likely to be just a 15,000 square foot building. I'm gonna project, but more likely it's a much larger facility. And I think what you brought up and what we wanted to make sure is clear is that if it's broader, it has the dedicated space for age 60 plus, the age 60 plus community. But the question of, hey, would we try to take 15,000 feet and sandwich a gym inside of it as well? I don't think that that's what's being thought about at all.
And there's also a public perception. So perhaps when this goes to the vote, a senior center only would be less expensive than a community center, and the town would vote for the senior center. Will the town vote for a more expensive community center? And if it doesn't, then we're negating the recommendations of Recalc that it's already been stated in their final report. So there's a real concern. You might want a community center with dedicated space, but perhaps the town isn't going to vote for a big community center. And then it's another year of doing planning to try to get the town to support its senior citizens. That's all I'm saying. And I think the Council on Aging was very clear in saying that we really need to look at this as serving current users of the senior center as well as other 60 plus residents that may not find the facility suitable for the activities that they want. So anyways, that's it. I just caution expanding the scope of this when the original scope was a senior center. So that's my caution to the select board.
So just to clarify, it's not expanding the scope, and it's consistent with the mission and the Recalc recommendation as a senior center or community center with dedicated space. So depending on the locations chosen, those may be more or less feasible. Fidel, I'm looking for where we're clear about our expectations in terms of we're not expecting one proposal back from this group. We're not expecting them to decide, boom, you're doing X. They're gonna come back with some options for us to evaluate.
Yeah, we drew it up in different phases, essentially, right? So and the first one is, it's to look at the programs, what programs are needed. Then the next one is, once we know what programs are needed, to look at where can those programs be housed, right? So essentially a site location, and those two would fit into schematic, the next step, which is how would those programs be offered at said location, what that site would look like, and what it would cost. So the first thing is the programs. What programs will be offered? And then the question is where they can be offered. And it's not to say that like it's going to be a circular project, right? I mean, we're gonna have a conversation about programs. We're gonna agree to the programs, and then we're going to go to the site selection, and then we're going to agree on the site selection, and then we're going to narrow down, basically like a funnel.
So am I hearing you say correctly that, or what I think Mark asked was, are we going to get different versions? Are we going to get from this designer a senior center only? Then we're going to get an option that is perhaps a community center and a senior center, or a designated space for a senior center, that we're going to get options like that. So then the town could choose one option over the other, and pricing might be a factor in that. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I thought of it more as site-based options.
Yes.
So for example, in their exploration of the Pleasant Street Center and an expansion, I would imagine that that remains essentially senior only. Something that might take place at Simon's Way probably is the opposite. It's probably more, again, less likely to be a dedicated building as a senior center, although possible, but perhaps more likely is a multi-story structure that accommodates more needs. And again, with designated, I think we're clear, designated space for the age 60 plus community. If it were to go that path. You know, I think what we're trying to do is make sure we don't handcuff these people to basically say, you didn't really need us. You already have defined what you're gonna do. And instead open it up and say, here are some ideas. Here are some thoughts on what you can do at different sites that are available. And I think we're pretty clear in saying to them early on, you know, what our expectations are, right? Develop a center for active living. I'm trying to find the exact words.
Yeah, I personally didn't read that in the RFQ. I thought it was a little fuzzy. And I think that's one of the things that the Council on Aging is trying to stress, that the priority is for a 60-plus active living center. And as long as the designer, and it's very clear in there, whether you call it site location or whether I call it audience-based, that there are going to be options that the town can select from that's going to be offered by this designer. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm going to section 6, first paragraph. We're going to roll. During the feasibility, schematic design, and design development phases of the project, the owner will require interactive working group sessions to explore site strategy options, design concepts, evaluation criteria, programming requirements, sustainability goals, and potential solutions.
Okay. Thank you. Chris?
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, come on up.
Thank you. I've been sitting back here trying to think how I was gonna say this. I wanna say what's been really amazing is the conversation that continues around this and all the enthusiasm. There is enthusiasm, which I've been really impressed with. And I want to make sure we don't lose sight of that, because this is a very long process. But I have seen, at least over the last 12 months, you know, this has been an amazing process. This has been an ongoing conversation, which is amazing. I've also seen, you know, we're having growth, which is amazing. You know, all these things. And I want to make sure we don't lose sight of this possibility of whatever it might be in the end. But I want to make sure, you know, I just wanted to, you know, do a shout out there between the Council on Aging, RECAL, the Select Board here, and residents, particularly the older adults in town. I want to get out there. It's just been amazing to watch and be part of and see what's going on with this. And I don't get to say that very often to everyone. I appreciate that, you know, as I'm at the Pleasant Street Center. And it's just good to see the growth that we've had, and people coming in, new people coming in. And it's just really, to me, it hasn't really started to settle. It just continues to grow, the conversation, what the possibility could be, you know, in everything. So, and I just wanted to, you know, do a shout out there with that. You know, so we don't lose, and I hope, and I don't think we will lose that momentum and that enthusiasm. You know, it's a fantastic thing. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for helping us end that part of the agenda on a positive note. So moving on to future agenda items, I think we've got that starting on page 167 of the packet. And so we know on September 12th, we'll get a visit from Senator Lewis and Reps Jones and Haggerty. I know Fidel asked us if we have questions, so I encourage board members to send those along. At Carlo Bacci's request, we'll have a presentation by the Reading Pickleball Players Association. We'll also do some more discussion of the November town meeting warrant with hopefully some clarification on the items we just talked about. Preview the capital plan, vote to appoint the charter review committee member designee from the select board. It would be helpful, Fidel, I think either on the 12th or the 26th, to get some more info on the community health needs assessment and, you know, public health CARES Act related, because, you know, those monies always have strings attached. I know that ARPA had different strings attached than CARES, so just also making sure that we can use that if we have any available for the food pantry. And then I see another full listing on September 26th. One thing I'd like to add, I just heard from the Reading Cultural Council today, and their grant cycle annually opens right around this time of year. They're opening grants on September 1st, and they asked to come and speak with us. So we offered them September 26th to talk about the grants they awarded last year and the criteria and application process for this year. Any other items for future agendas? Community Preservation Act, it's on there for September 26th. Yep, thank you. Other items? When do we need to vote on the tax rates by? Is that October?
October, end of October. It's your meeting on October 24th.
Okay. Okay. And I guess with that, we have just one set of minutes from July 18th to approve. I sent, Caitlin, I sent you some red lines late this afternoon.
Yes, I will share those, and those are the only edits I received.
Yeah, so just a grammatical error on, or a grammatical correction on small businesses, not possessive. Autumn Hendrickson, I added that she was an alum of RMHS. And I believe her book and her study, her research is focused on World War II.
Correct.
Just cleaned up the language on a designee for the special committee. Corrected the spelling of mosque. And just some more detail on when the dog park hearing was, or forum was held, which foundation is providing grants, and the deed, that the restrictions at Memorial Park were deed related. I think that's it.
I believe that's it.
Is there a motion to adopt the July 18th minutes as amended?
So moved.
Thanks, Karen.
Second.
Thanks, Mark. All those in favor? Opposed? 4-0. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thanks, Karen.
Second.
Thanks, Mark. All those in favor? Opposed? 4-0. We're adjourned. Thank you. Good night.